All right, guys, today we got a special guest in the house. A lot of people called him crazy back in the day, but I know he's a good brother, man. We got the one, the only Funkmaster Wizard Wiz.
Salute.
How you doing, Wiz?
Hey, I'm alive, Panda. I'm good. How about you?
Hey, man, I'm just so grateful to have you here today on the platform, man.
Wow. Thank you, man, for having me. I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, man. So with my interviews, I like to do things in chronological order to help the people understand who you are on a deeper level, right?
Okay.
So where were you born?
Wow. Actually, I'm Brooklyn. I'm Brooklyn bound. I'm from Brooklyn, BK. And I moved to the Bronx, back in the, in the 70s.
How old are we talking when you moved to the Bronx?
I was about 10 years old when I moved to the Bronx. Yeah.
Oh, so where was you growing up in Brooklyn?
Oh, I was from the Pink Houses, East New York. You know what I'm saying? LQ, all Lafayette Gardens.
Hey, you know what they say about East New York, man. Brothers from East New York.
Now, tell me what they say, because I grew up in the Bronx, so tell me the rumors. What's the
rumors? Yo, well, you know what I mean? Like, y'all get down. You get busy.
Hey,
you get
man,
busy.
hey.
Get busy, you know? That's all I got to say. Did you grow up with any siblings?
Yeah, I had a brother, he passed away, though, but I had one sibling with me at that time. Yeah.
I'm sorry for your loss, man.
It's all good. It's life. It's life.
He passed away when you were older, or like when you guys were still kids?
Nah, this is when he passed away about 20-something years old. Yeah.
Can I ask you how?
He had the virus, man. He had the virus.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, he died. I'm going to keep it real with you, brother. My brother was probably one of the spearheaders for the LGBTQ committee. My brother probably this was going back before the LGBTQ. I'm talking about in the 80s, man.
Right.
My brother was into that life back in those days. So I'm very familiar with the movement. I'm very familiar with the lifestyle. So, that's his story. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. What did your parents do for work?
My father was a musician. My mom, she was the mother.
Okay, so she was stay at home with you guys.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And what kind of musician was your father?
Wow, he was a live musician, a live instrument. He had a couple of bands and stuff like that he used to mingle with and do his thing with. So that's where I inherited my gift from, my pops.
What instruments was he playing though?
My father played a variety of instruments, from the congas to the piano to the flute.
Wow.
Yeah, he was very musically inclined, very much.
That's amazing, man. And during those times was kind of like where there were more instrumentation, there was more of those type of teachings, right? In the schools and everything before they took it all away. And living in the hood, it was also hard to house instruments, large instruments as well,
Yeah. I remember growing up in school, those was privileges. I mean, just to be in music class or to even be able to take an instrument home was it was a great joy to a kid at that time. Right. So I used to play the recorder. So I miss those days. I know what you're talking about. That's real.
Yeah. What did your what was the household like the dynamic between the family?
Wow. That was a whole nother scenario. I'm going to put it to you like this. The household that I grew up in, I strove and strive hard to make sure that I don't have that household for my children to grow up in.
Like many of us do.
You dig what I'm saying? I learned from my experiences some of the do's and don'ts. I haven't mastered it because there's no manual on parenting and things of that nature, but we have common sense. We basically got intelligence, so we know the do's and don'ts in life. So, I pretty much gave my kids everything I didn't have.
Right, most definitely, man. Your parents, they're still with us?
No, they both gone. They transitioned.
I'm sorry for that, man. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's all good, yo. Never be sorry. Never be sorry for transitioning because we all gonna take that walk, and it's nothing to be sorry about. It is what it is. It's a part of life. We
That's a fact.
promise two things in life: life and death, or transitioning, as I like to refer to it.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of kid were you? Were you like really into sports early on, or were you into music?
Yo, first of all, I was the oldest child, so I was the big brother, and I pretty much I was, I had intelligence. I was pretty sharp in my younger days, but I still was a child. I still was young. I still had energy. I still was inquisitive. I still was curious, and I still was hard headed. So I was a typical kid, but I still had intelligence too. So I knew, not to trespass too far beyond my boundaries. I was that kind of kid. I was cautious, but as I grew up to become a teenager, that's when, I kind of, transitioned to just crossing the line. But growing up in my household with my parents and my brother, with my mother and father, I pretty much was a pretty intelligent kid, good grades and, on top of my business.
So you grew up with both of them together.
Yeah, my mother and father were together, but then they separated, and that's when everything fell apart. My mom, pop separated when I was about 10, and shortly after
Oh,
they
okay.
separated, I went on my own. I left my father's house at 10. At years old, I left and I went to the Bronx to find my mother. That's how I got to the Bronx. My mother and father were from Brooklyn. Actually, when they separated, my mother went to the Bronx. And shortly after that, I left my father's location to find my mother in the Bronx. And I was about 10 years old when I did that.
Did they give you guys the option to pick who to stay with, or how did that happen that you were with your dad?
Well, to be honest with you, I was young. Like I said, I was 10, but my mother took my brother and I stayed with my pops. Now, I didn't know what that was all about, but I know I was heartbroken and I didn't understand it. But they was the adults dealing with the situation. Now, as I'm looking at it as an adult, I'm understanding that they were adults going through their own thing. And, this is what the resolution that they came to in their marriage. And, I guess, we was affected by it because we were separated, but that's how it ended up.
Mm-hmm. And would you say that like your father's musical career played a part in that?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, to be honest with you, right? We think we know our parents. We only know them as mommy and daddy, but they still individuals. They still were young. They still got downfalls. They still got addictions. They still got bad habits. They had their own childhood, their upbringing. So we really never could get to understand our parents when we young like that. But I don't think that my father's musical pursuits interfered with their lifestyle or their marriage. It was just whatever they was going through, wasn't working out. You did, and,
Gotcha.
and it caused for separation. I don't really know what they were going through because I was a child then. They know, but I know that they couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, I always say, man, like you gotta heal your trauma as much as possible before you become a parent, because
Mm,
that's how that generational trauma comes about, and you pass it on to your child, because a lot of times we end up raising kids the way that we were raised, or we go the exact opposite because we know what to provide, right? But
I
it's
agree.
a lot of things that people I believe, especially in the inner city, that we're not taught how to cope with.
Correct. I totally agree with you, bro. Absolutely.
So what was the relationship with you and your dad though? Like you said that he taught you about music, and you learned that love from him.
Yeah, my father, had a piano in the house. He had flutes. He had a couple of instruments, and he used to play every day. Making up songs or just fiddling around. And we used to watch and listen. And he used to, call us over to the piano, hit us up, and show us a few notes and stuff like that, and let us fiddle around with it. When he wasn't messing around. So it became a hobby, became something to do in my household. And so, I used to learn how to read and write music and everything. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Um, what was the relationship with your mom? Were you like really close with your mom?
My mom was the relationship with my mom was very. I was very overprotective of her because she was a woman, and she was a beautiful woman. And she would get a lot of head turning in the streets and things of that nature. So me as a little kid, walking down the street with my moms, I would see cats whistling at her or turning. And
Oh
I'm
man.
looking at, yeah, I'm looking at like, what you looking at my mom's like that for, man? Yo, and my mom's, come on, boy, get your behind over here.
Right.
So yeah, I was overprotective, but I love my mom to death. She was a great woman. She cooked. She always was was a clean and tidy lady. She kept her home immaculate, and she did her thing, man. She nurtured me. She nurtured me.
So at 10, you leave your dad's house in Brooklyn and you go to the Bronx, right? What is
Correct.
that mindset for you at that time? Like, what are you thinking about that transition now that you're moving away to a new place?
First of all, it was totally different from where I'm from. I'm from East New York in Brooklyn, and I moved to Boston Road in 169th Street and Union Avenue in the Bronx. And I was
And this is
new
in
in
the
the area.
70s, right? In the 70s
Yeah,
or
correct.
okay.
It's the early 70s too. I'm talking about 70, 71, 72, something like
Oh,
that.
so even before hip hop starts to take
Oh
off. So
yeah,
like
this was before that. For me, yeah.
wow.
For me, this was early. I was young cat. Like I said, I was 10. So yeah, coming up to the Bronx, going into the, we call it the hood now. You know what I'm saying? I never saw that much poverty where I was from in Brooklyn. I lived in the pink houses, what I'm saying, East New York. And, I didn't even know what poverty really was because I was sheltered by the projects and all of that stuff. But going to the Bronx, I quickly became aware of a whole nother lifestyle that was occurring. I had no knowledge of.
Was the Bronx on fire at this time or was that the 60s?
No, the Bronx was going through a lot of abandoned buildings, a lot of fires, and in fact, it had a bad reputation at that time. I remember my family members in Brooklyn, they never came to the Bronx to visit us or anything. If I had to see my family, I would have to go to Brooklyn to visit them. They was terrified to come to the Bronx. But I had been growing up there for a while, so I adapted to it. It was home to me. I loved it. I didn't even want to go back to Brooklyn once I hit the Bronx.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
Real talk.
so you're in the Bronx, and are you happy that you're there now, or you miss Brooklyn?
I'm happy I'm there now because I was a little man. I got a chance to express freedom. I had more freedom, and I was in a new environment, and I had to learn shit. I had shit to learn. I had to be a big brother to my brother. I had to watch over my moms and things of that nature. So I pretty much took on a responsibility to just look out for my moms and look out for my little brother and, be that little man and, just keep a
So you
close eye
became the
on.
new man of the house, basically.
Basically, you could say that. You could definitely
Yeah.
say that. Yeah, you could say that.
And so, okay, so you're in the Bronx now, right?
Right.
And you're 10. And are you starting to get in trouble and get into the streets, or are you focused on school? Like, take us through that.
Oh, I'm getting in trouble now because most of the cats that I met were street guys, guys that was doing this or doing that. And, I was feeling like a virgin. You know what I'm saying? I ain't have no larceny or nothing in my heart. I never done anything while I was living in Brooklyn. But now that I'm in the Bronx, I see that that's the code of the street. I see that, this is what it is. So, I started mingling with a couple of cats that wasn't doing the right thing. And, I was introduced to not doing the right thing. And it just became, a reality, man. Like, this is what it is. So, hey, I got wrapped up in that. You know what
So
I mean?
we talking like selling drugs or more like stick ups or
We,
just
no,
being
we talk about like thinking like that. First of all, I had to adjust to that lifestyle in my mind. I had to this was a whole new philosophy. I had to sit back and study this and watch people and learn that, hey, you're not in Brooklyn anymore. You're not in East New York. You're not in the pink houses. You want a whole nother thing. You don't live in the projects. You live in an apartment building now. There's people on the corner drinking wine, and it's like I saw it was so much to capture. And then again, I was in that protection mode with my moms and my brothers. So, I knew that I had to be hard. I knew I couldn't take no shorts. I couldn't be walking around with a smile on my face. So I had to learn these things quick that, yo, man, it's you got to survive out here, man. This ain't no game.
Would you say it's a fair assessment to say that it's almost like your innocence was snatched from you at that time then?
Wow. It's funny you said that, because I say this to my children every day. Not every day, but when it's necessary. I say to them, you know what, man? I never had a birthday. Y'all all have birthdays I got a birthday that occurs in my house probably once a month, because I got 11 children, and it's always somebody's birthday. Every month there's somebody's birthday, and we got to accommodate that. But me growing up, I never had a birthday cake, never had a birthday. So, I always remind my children that, man, y'all having it way better than me and your mother did when we was growing up. Y'all got birthdays and TVs and cartoons and places. I had none of that. None of that. So in a way, I'm proud of myself that I was able to achieve that with my children. And you know what I'm saying? But again, we get a little jealous because you're like, damn, I never had a birthday cake, but I got to buy a birthday cake every month for one of y'all. Just human nature kicks in a little sourpuss sometimes,
Yeah, no. I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from, because, in psychology, we talk about like the inner child in you, right? That you feel like, man, I wish I had that when I was a kid, or yes. You're not accustomed to remembering what that was like. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we focus so much on what we went without, that when you hear your kids say something like, yo, I need this now, you're like, what do you mean you need that? I grew up without that.
That's me right there, Panda.
And you've been busy. I could tell you've been busy. You got 11 kids, so you hearing it all the time, man.
Absolutely, Panda. I can identify with that.
So yeah, help paint the picture for us, okay? Like, you're in the 70s, the Bronx. Like, what are you seeing on the streets right now? You seeing crack valves, or what are you seeing? Like, just a lot of turmoil.
Crack wasn't around yet.
Right.
Crack wasn't even there yet.
80s, yeah.
Crack wasn't there yet. I saw a lot of poverty, and I saw a lot of black folk living in poverty, substance abuse, heroin abuse, alcohol abuse. No goals, no community activities, no examples that the community could look up to. You gotta be tough. You gotta walk around with the screw face. You gotta have this, to be accepted. You gotta get in where you fit in. Those were pretty much the things that I was experiencing, living up in the Bronx, coming from Brooklyn. I had to learn how to adapt to this whole nother mindset of, living in the South Bronx. That's pretty much that's what was traumatizing, because it was a whole nother situation from what I was used to.
Yeah, most definitely, man. So what is your mom thinking about all these things as the changes are happening?
To be honest with you, my mom's, she became a product of her environment. She became a product of her environment. And that was more devastating for me, because it made me have to be more overprotective and confrontational with my mom, because of the decisions that she was making, and having to remind her, hey, you got two sons here. And, I'm pretty much open-minded about my brother. He's still a baby, so, we had those things. I would have confrontations with the individual she may have been dealing with at that time, and he was a grown-ass man, but I was still a youngster. But I was respected and intelligent, and that was my mom. So, I had to grow up quick. I had to learn very fast what I was dealing with, and I felt alone. Like, hey, man, my mom was pretty much, getting with the flow of things, and I gotta pretty much keep watching over her to make sure she don't go too far.
So at that time, it's like you need a parent, but in turn, you're kind of taking on that role.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the best way to describe it. Pretty much, yeah. Hmm.
And you described like the destruction, the terrible things that you're already seeing in the neighborhood, right? And this is prior to the crack hitting
Yeah,
the neighborhood, right? So there's
yeah, major.
already dysfunction, a lot of drug use and everything. What do you
Correct.
start to see once the 80s come around in?
Well, by the time the '80s came around, I was a different person.
Mm,
I was a whole different person. I had adapted. This was home. I was comfortable with it. I got in where I fit in, and it was like home now. I adapted to it. I was a whole different person. I became a part of some of the stuff that was going on as well, but not to the extreme where I lost my intelligence or my perspectives on my values on a lot of the things, even growing up as far as the most high spirituality and things like that. But of course, I had to get money. Was in and out of relationships, having sex, moving around, doing things I shouldn't do, dipping and dabbing, smoking, drinking, those common things that, we dibble and dabble with and, growing up in that environment.
so you started to hit the streets and hustle then?
Well, I'm gonna keep it real with you, bro. Hustling really wasn't my thing.
Mm,
I didn't have the patience to be pushing nothing, slinging nothing. I was more of like, I just take what I want. Like I was more like a stick up kid. I needed the
got
quick
you.
money. I didn't wait on the corner pushing nothing. I didn't have patience for that. You did. So I just went, what I'm saying, where the money was. And, I was more of a take what you want type of guy.
Got you. Do you remember the moment that you fell in love with hip hop?
Yes, I do. But for me, it was on many levels because for me, I started off as a B-boy.
Right.
So I started off as a B-boy into hip hop. I was introduced to hip hop through the breakdancing, and this was like in '76, '77. And yeah, I was on the floor breaking, doing all that kind of stuff. And we used to battle, meet guys on the corner, meet guys in the street, go down on the floor, battle, and practice moves, invent new moves. So yeah, I was introduced to hip hop. First, my love for hip hop was for the b-boying aspect of it back in the '76s and '77. Yeah.
So you're in the Bronx in the early 70s, so you get to see the inception of hip hop, right? Do you remember that first memory when people are starting to talk about it?
Um, Well, for me, it was always on my mind. Once I was introduced to it, breakdancing on the floor, that's all I was able to think about. As far as people who were older than us, they looked down upon it, they ridiculed it, they really wasn't able to get with it. But it is what it is.
But that first memory, though, that first memory of like when you were introduced to it, like how did you get that news that, hey, this is hip hop, this is something new that we all doing now? Like, what was that memory like?
It was like a way out. It was like for me, like, wow, this is a whole new thing. I don't have to think the way I used to think and be involved with some of the things that I was involved with because now there's a new way out for me over here. I can acquire some fame, some popularity, and some things with this whole new thing called hip hop. I'm good at writing. I could speak well. I'm articulate. I could dance. I break dance. And so, for me, it was just a whole new escape knowing that I can be involved with this thing called hip hop, and that could occupy, and I could have a lot of self expression and creativity with this whole new thing that we called hip hop. Yeah, that's what it was for
So
me.
you found a healthy
It was
outlet.
explosive. It was explosive. It was explosive. I couldn't eat. I'm thinking of break dancing. I'm hearing beats. I'm banging on tables. I couldn't stop beating. It was just addictive. It was addictive. It was addictive.
So did you first get introduced to it by just seeing it in the park, or did a friend tell you about it and introduce you to it that way, or like how were you introduced?
Again, I was introduced to hip hop first through breakdancing, where I saw some guys breakdancing. I started breakdancing, b-boying on the floor, out in the park, out in the street. Running to other b-boys who was b-boying, and that's the first aspect of hip hop that I was introduced to. The dancing, the breakboy. I didn't know nothing about the rapping, the MCing, and all that. That wasn't already that hadn't been introduced to me yet. It was just the b-boying. It was the b-boying that was the initial introduction to hip hop for me. So I was amazed. So I just wanted to be good at that, So I would have my moves ready, be ready to, go down whenever, a challenge met or anything like that. So I was that's all that just absorbed me. Just dancing, b-boying, the beats, Apache, Bongo Rock, all the songs we used to play. I was just absorbed in that, just from the dancing aspect first, initially.
So at what point do you realize, I don't want to do breakdancing anymore, I want to pick up the mic now?
Woo! Yo, I'm gonna tell you.
Before we get into that, though, do you still got the moves? You still got the moves?
Nah. I don't got the moves, but I got the memories. I got the memories. When I see other people doing the moves, I'll be like, yo, I used to do that move right there, man. I used to be able to do that. So I still got the memories of
your body
the
don't
moves,
respond the same way, huh?
Nah, I can't do it no more. I wish I could so I could show my sons and daughters,
right.
Nah, I can't do
You'll
it.
end up breaking your back if you spin on your head.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Uh-huh. You better believe it, boy. Your body ain't ready for that no more, man.
You're like, I done had 11 kids.
Hell yeah. I don't stretch no more. I don't play basketball, run no. So, yeah, I'm out of it, man. I would never be able to do that again.
So when did you realize, I want to pick up the mic now instead?
Yeah, well, I always liked to dress. I always liked to look good, so I always kept a pair of British. At that time, British Walkers was popping, Plaids was popping, Mark Necks was popping, and, fashion was in it. I always liked to look good and represent, so, I would always, scuff up my sneakers or scuff up my British Walkers because I couldn't resist the temptation whenever I saw a B-boy cypher. And I would end up scuffing up my sneakers or, doing some knee rock and messing up the knees on my Plaids. And I couldn't be a fly guy and a B-boy at the same time. So I was like, yo, this B-boying shit is going to have to stop for me because I'm getting too, I'm on some fly guy shit now.
I'm too fly for this now.
Yeah, I can't be doing this shit no more like that. So, yeah, man, I went to Roosevelt High School. There was a jam going on there. And I didn't know nobody there. I was just like my first jam. You ever going to a jam, seeing guys on microphones, seeing DJing like that? And so I said, damn, I saw these. I think it was a few of the guys that Caz and them was on. I think Charlie Chase, Whipper Whip, T-Bone. I remember those guys because I know them now, but back then I didn't know them. But they was pretty much commanding the show. They had mics. They had the crowd throwing their hands in the air. They was dressed well. They was fashioned out. And I was like, yo, that's some powerful shit with that fucking microphone. And they was just doing basic shit. Throw your hands in. They was just doing shit like that. But like I said, I was always articulate. So I already saw myself like I'm going to be writing some rhymes. I'm going to be telling some stories. I'm going to be using my vocabulary and my wordplay to take this whole thing to another level. So, yeah, man, I was like, man, I'm going to pick up one of those mics and become an MC, man. And that's what I did.
Wow. So,
yeah,
right from that moment, do you go and write a rhyme or you just learn to control the crowd?
First of all, I had to go write a rhyme. I had to think of a name because before I could write a rhyme, I had to have a name. So I came up with the name Wizard Wiz. And I liked it that. I liked it that Wiz shit. You know, that fitted me. It was short. It was brief. It had a lot of definition to it, self-explanatory, and it said a lot. So I was like, Wizard Wiz. That Wizard Wiz is what it is. So after I had the name, then I could start writing rhymes because, you know, I had to write the rhymes around my name and stuff like that. Wizard. The rest of my name is Wiz. You know, I had to write around the name. So, yeah, I started writing rhymes immediately. Immediately, I'll be on the train going somewhere. I got pen and paper with me. I'm writing on paper. I've got a notebook with me. I'm writing.
Wait.
Yeah.
You remember your first rhyme?
I remember, I remember, yo, let me tell you what happened. It's a funny story. It's brothers who know my rhymes better than me from those days. And it's this brother, I don't know if you have the pleasure of meeting him. His name is DJ Holiday. He's from the first era. He's from back in our time. DJ Holiday. At that time, he used to be in the audience watching everything from, you know, Cold Crush, Funk. He was just a DJ and watching, but he came up to me one day. He said, yo, Wiz, man, I still remember your old fucking rhymes. He said, remember that rhyme you used to say about the snail? And I was like, nah, I don't remember that. He was like, it went like this. If you step on the snail, you squash his head and his tail, and this is how you would feel if you were ever in jail. Imagine you jump in bail, steal a boat and go sail, but cops are hot on your trail. You're looking skinny and you're frail. You're feeling pretty. And he started going on about, I said, oh, shit. And he taught me my own rhyme all over again because I had forgot that shit.
That's crazy, man. Wow.
Yeah. I had forgotten that shit, but he remembered and ran it down to me, man. I was like, wow, man, I felt honored about that. Yeah. But yeah, that was the rhyme. If you step on the snail, you squash his head and his tail, and this is how you would feel if you were ever in jail. Imagine you jump in bail, steal a boat and go sail, but cops are hot on your trail. You're looking nervous and pale. You're feeling skinny and frail, like the head of a nail. All I got to say, hey kids, you better not fail, because if they ever catch you by a hint or a clue, then you look for the lady with the hole in the shoe. I heard she dabbles with spirits, ghosts, and voodoo. She can mix a potion of magic brew, then turn something old back to brand new. She could turn a Puerto Rican into a Jew, but there is one thing that she can't do: stop people from calling her witchy poo. That was my first rhyme. That was my first rhyme. Yeah. Real talk.
That's crazy, man. So, okay, so you start writing rhymes, and then what happens from there?
I start getting clientele. I start getting recognized because, first of all, I was a solo MC. Second of all, I was lyrical. I was telling stories. I was telling stories like that. And other guys was just basically doing, yes, y'all, to the beat, y'all. You don't stop. Keep on. And I rock the road, and you roll your rock. You know, they was just that basic foundation. But I was coming with
because
stories.
There's two different ways of being the MC, right? You got to be the party rocker, or you be the one to really be on the lyrical to make people think. Like you was going down that route with the storytelling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't do any other way. I couldn't do anything less than that, but, you know, put my creativity to work. So yeah, I was telling stories. I was doing wordplay. I was getting great responses. Caz is one of my biggest students. Caz used to watch me and sit there and record me in the jams and everything. He used to have all my tapes. I think he got shit about me I don't even know that he got. But yeah, he was one of my students. He used to sit right there, man, and just watch me because I was totally different from everybody else. And I was confident, cocky, and strong. I was strong, intimidating at those times. And I walked alone. And when I got on that mic, I represented that. So those little elements to somebody and some people who's looking on the outside, they collect all that information, and they draw a conclusion about you within their own mind. So yeah, that's it.
Was there a lot of battling going on at that time, like rap battles?
For me, there was, because I would dudes would want to challenge me. Well, I had a couple of local battles. It's nothing major. Little dudes that think they want to try their luck with you. Come up, yo, man, I'll battle you right now. You would have to represent and shit like that. I went through a few of those growing up, but it was never no competition because I was always ahead of my time. So yeah, I never had no problems with that. I used to like that because I knew I was ahead of my time. So, and I always kept the arsenal of rhymes and things that I knew that other people wasn't even thinking like this. They ain't even thinking about this level of thinking that I'm on. So yeah, I was kind of cocky with it, and yeah, I was always confident.
But at that time, the battles was more like who had the best rhyme versus like making it personal disses about each other, right?
Well, it depended on what the battle was about. Some people, like I had a battle for my name. Like some dude wanted my name Wiz. And, we had to go at it for the name Wiz. And, he had to pull his drawers down in front of everybody right there in the corner. Once I smashed him, the whole thing, you got to pull your pants down to be embarrassed, and I'm taking your name. So, some dudes battle for, that's what I had to battle for, for the name and just for people thinking they wanted to try my skills and shit like that. But back in those days, it wasn't really a lot of battling going on. I can't really until Mo D came with the Busy Bee thing, and that was pretty much a highlight of battling back in those days. But prior to that, it really wasn't no battling. It was just everybody just wanted to get on the mic and show their skills. It really wasn't no battling shit like that going on like that. Everybody just wanted to come under the ropes and get on the mic.
So how old were you when you wrote the first rhyme?
I had to be about 13. I think I was about 13, something like that. Yeah, because I just started smoking cigarettes at that time. So I was feeling real, real manly. And I started smoking cigarettes and shit. And, I was writing, that's when you start messing with girls then, you start smoking cigarettes, you start being introduced to other things and shit like that. And so, yeah, man, that's what it was, man. That's what it was.
All right, Wiz, I'm going to need your help on this one, okay? Now, one of the biggest debates that hip hop has had over the years is how much involvement did Puerto Ricans have in the creation of hip hop? Now, Fat Joe had came out and he said it was 50-50, and he received a lot of backlash for that, right? I interviewed your man K-Born, and he said you got to break it down into the elements. He said Puerto Ricans were mainly into breakdancing and graffiti, but on the DJ and rapping side, it was mainly blacks. Man, roll a clip.
Yeah, but Fat Joe was talking about rhyming. I mean, Fat Joe is talking about, like, Fat Joe them is just put everything into a gumbo soup. So that's why Fat Joe was saying, yo, now it was Spanish people there, Spanish people there, Spanish people there. It was Spanish people there, Fat Joe. But it was more, the Spanish people was breakdancing, Fat Joe. Or the Spanish people was doing graffiti. The majority of the rappers was African American. The DJs was African American. You had Charlie Chase and probably like one or two more Latin DJs. That was it. That was the end of that. You know what I'm saying? That was the end of that. Then later on, and Doo-Wop came, because Doo-Wop was a kid. That's one of my brothers. Doo-Wop wasn't DJing at that time. So he was, it was only like, Kid Capri wasn't DJing at that time. Kid Capri, one of my brothers, grew up with me. Kid Capri wasn't DJing at that time.
So when people are having this conversation, they need to be more specific about all the different elements of hip hop, right?
Yeah.
Because
you just can't say hip hop because we wasn't taking hip hop as one thing. It's elements of hip hop. And in certain elements, it was always predominantly Latin when it came to graffiti and predominantly Latin when it came to breakdancing.
Okay. I can only speak from my perspective, and I could speak from the research that I've recently done because I didn't know. I had to clear that up myself because growing up, like I said, I was introduced to hip hop through b-boying and breakdancing, and I was around a lot of Latinos. At that time in '77, the Latinos was dominating the b-boy aspect of hip hop. Okay, that's what we got established. Now, I had to go back after Fat Joe made that statement. I had to go back and do my own research. What would happen before '77? Because, what happened in '73? What happened in '74? Who was there in '75? I had to find that out because when I did get into hip hop, my first night of going to that Roosevelt High School jam, I'll never forget it. It wasn't no Latinos there. It was mainly a black orientated crowd there. I didn't recall seeing any Latinos to be. It was just a black thing. It was a black thing. So I felt privileged because I'm just coming from the Latino side because my mom is Latino as well. Her last name was Rojas. So I
Oh,
grew
I
up with
didn't
the
know that. I didn't know that
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
So she's Puerto Rican, or
She has her mom's she's Puerto Rican, but her mom she didn't speak it. She grew up with the black generation more than her Latino generation. So she didn't speak the language.
also she was
But my
half
mother,
half.
right? Well, yeah. I'm gonna put it to you like this: my grandmother was Spanish. My grandfather was black
Gotcha.
American. So my mother was their child.
Mhm.
So she had a black father and a Spanish mother. So my mother married my father, who was a black man, and my mother continued her Spanish heritage. But when she got married, she changed her name from Rojas to Lockett. So that runs off in my DNA as well. So I was able to grow up with my Latino brothers and sisters during the B-boy time. And that's where I was introduced to hip hop. But later on, as I evolved into picking up a microphone and getting onto the mic, I learned that there was a whole nother aspect to hip hop just besides the breakdancing or what I had grown up with. There was rhyming and DJing and all kind of other stuff from a whole nother aspect. So I melted right into that. I wasn't no separation at that time in our minds. The way we are debating about this topic today, back in those days, there was really no separation for me in my mind because I had grown up with the Latino brothers and sisters and now was, mingling with the black brothers and sisters. So it wasn't no separation for me. It was all the same to me, but I was able to experience both sides of the fence.
But back in the day in New York, though, they were almost viewed as the same too, or very close, right? Like blacks and Latinos.
Yeah, well, that's a very sensitive topic because I got a lot of Latino brothers and sisters who I love, and I got a lot of FBA, Foundational Black Americans that I love too, and grew up with them. So I don't want to offend nobody, but I'm just going to speak the truth from my experience. Caz had made a statement on Vlad saying that Latinos didn't play a big part in hip hop, that maybe one or two of them, and that they were pretty much listening to merengue and salsa while we was listening to hip hop and turntables in the park. And so after that comment, I said, okay, all right. Then years after that, Fat Joe comes out with the comment about Latinos
50-50.
being 50% of the creation of hip hop, which I totally disagreed with. I totally disagreed with that because when we talking creation or we talking contribution, this is where we get it twisted at.
You're
From
right.
my
Semantics
experience, right,
plays the real, because are you talking about at the very beginning, or are you talking about
right,
like from the very creation, or are you talking about contributions over the years when
right.
hip hop started to go into more elements, started to go into, like I was having this conversation with one of my friends too, and I was like, yeah, you got to be very careful with the word selection. What are you specifically saying?
Correct. And that's what I think a lot of people who are not selective with their wording, got like Fat Joe got misconstrued it. Because first of all, I was there and Fat Joe wasn't. See, I was there and Fat Joe wasn't there when I was there. So for him to make that statement, I kind of looked at the adolescence in it, and I understand that, it's about time for that to happen, but it wasn't accurate. And, I was very offended when Fat Joe made that statement because, when we talking about the creativity, we're not talking about the contribution. And that's what, again, like the wordplay, I felt that, he was playing with the words. And if he didn't know and understand, but I feel like he meant what he said. He really felt in the creation aspect of hip hop, Latinos contributed just as much as FBA, Foundational Black Americans. And I didn't see it that way. I didn't see him as the creating, but I see them as the contributors as well.
Got you. Okay. You know, but Joe was born in 1970. So can you really say that he wasn't there? I guess
you said he was born in 1970. That
right.
He wasn't when he was born in 1970. He was a baby.
Right.
He was a baby in 1970.
Unless he was coming out at like 5 years old, you know, like to really like be a part of everything. I get you, yeah.
So in 1980, he was only 10.
Right.
So if he was born in 70, by 1980, he was 10 years old.
Right.
And hip hop was already here.
Yeah.
So how can he make a statement like that when he was a baby when hip hop was being evolved? We're dealing with numbers.
What about the argument that people say that hip hop really comes from, you know, Jamaica and from the Caribbean and everything? And what do you think about all of that?
First of all, right, I don't like to speak about an opinion, or I don't like to make assumptions. I don't speak like that. I speak with facts. So the answer to that question is, if you do your research, you'll find out that that's not true. You'll find out that Busta Rhymes making that statement and those allegations, and Fat Joe making those statements and allegations at the same time, those statements is not accurate at all. They're not accurate at all. In fact, to be honest with you, Jamaica copied Americans. You know, their music, their whole thing was what they've learned from Americans. And they took it to Jamaica and brought it back. So it's like, if we do the research on these things, we don't have to have an opinion because everybody got one. But if you do your research, you'll see that that's not true at all. That's not, in fact, the Jamaicans copied Americans. They used to remake our great legendary black artists' music over. They copied our stuff. They remade our songs over in their reggaeton stuff. We wasn't copying their stuff. They came in, was learning from Americans. And that's how they were able to, you know, grow and develop the way they've grown and developed in their culture.
You know, when I interviewed K-Born, he said that from what he remembers from seeing at that time, he said that, you know, the Latinos were going to different parties. So he basically kind of confirmed what you were saying when you went to the high school and you saw what the crowd was looking like. He said that they would go to different parties and they would be listening to music more like the A-E-I-O-U, like that type of style of music. Even though the breakdancing and the graffiti, they were heavily involved with. Man, roll the clip.
To be
so when you look at the people, though, the people that were actually at the park, the park jams, right? The people that may not have been doing the dancing and everything, but the people that came there to enjoy themselves and support, was it mainly African Americans, or was there a lot of Latinos there enjoying and the entertainment?
Okay, now when we went to the jams, right? Outside jam, you know, outside for everybody. So the outside jams, everybody will go to the jams. So you'll have the Latin people, the Spanish people there, right? Now, we all hanging out. When we start playing our radio on the block, when there ain't no jams, all the people that listen to hip hop is the African Americans. We down here. All the people that listen to A-E-I-O-U house music, which was the Latins, and got the Webo boots on, and they got their little joint on. My man Johnny up there. My boy came out with I'll House You. Girl, I'll House You. You know, Sammy B and all them. You had Esa Loca, Dale Webo. I was down with them too. But they was down the block. We all hung out together, but when that radio came on, yo, Mr. Magic, all the brothers ran this way. And all of them ran that way. And when we all hung out, like I said, we all hustled together. We all selling weed and all that together. Yo, y'all, we go to a party. Where we going? And yo, all the black brothers got together. We all throwing out outfits, and we all going to Skate Key, Skate Fever, the Latin Quarters, somewhere. All the Latin people that we hung out with, including my baby mother, and whatever Latin female, whoever I was going out with, they all was going to 1018, Studio 54, the La Mirage, and all of those clubs. and we all will meet up later on that night and go to White Castles or where we going. We all went to separate clubs. So they need to stop that, man. I don't know how they sit here and get on this internet and be saying that. I don't know how Fat Joe can say that either and being Latin. You can't get one person in his family to get on there and sit next to him and co-sign him saying that.
Yeah, correct. They were. Also, I would add on to say that there was tension between the black community and the Latino community during those days. It wasn't just a kumbaya thing. You understand what I'm saying? I can remember some of the early days when Latinos was coming into the black communities. For the black community, that was a whole new thing. Like, whoa, we wasn't used to that. We wasn't used to that culture or that nationality. So, we would always, gesture at them or not make them feel uncomfortable. So I remember those early days. And then as the Latino community started to grow and become empowered, they too started discriminating against blacks and, calling us morenos and niggas. And there was a tension between, the black and Latino community, even though we had to live amongst each other. But there was often some people who broke away from that tension. And, they united and were able to build friendships and stuff like that. And that's how we ended up, being able to, come together more frequently because some people broke those connections. But it was a lot of tension between black and Latino in those days because of the cultural differences.
Well, and you're talking about growing up in the Bronx, so you had a heavy amount of both sides then.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I did. So that's why I feel privileged because, I grew up with both entities and I could elaborate on both sides from my time period, from, my experiences only.
So I interviewed MC Shan, right? And he said,
okay,
we can't really debate Joe on that because hip hop comes from the Bronx and there's so many Puerto Ricans there, and the rappers and DJs started dressing like the breakdancers and graffiti artists with the Kangol and the sweatsuits. And, although knowledge is oftentimes said to be the fifth element of hip hop, sometimes people say fashion is, or, they say fashion is the sixth element, or, those interchangeable ones. So would you say that we have to credit them even, to credit Puerto Ricans, the Latinos even more because of what Shan is saying then? Man, roll the clip.
You got to remember the Bronx is full of Puerto Ricans.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we possibly debate Fat Joe on that fact? If the hip hop came from the Bronx and the Bronx is full of Puerto Rican, it's only a fact that Fat Joe and them were the first ones to capitalize on it. But that don't mean that they weren't doing it. We stole their style because the graffiti artists dressed like me and LL, right? The B-boys who were the Puerto Ricans dressed like the new generation of rap music. So they talking shit. Tell them shut the fuck up. Tell them Shan said shut the fuck up. Because he really don't know what he talking about. Because like he said, they were doing this, but guess what? We stole their style. That's how Puerto Ricans are part of what this hip hop thing is. Because rappers like myself and LL Cool J, how did the breakdancers dress? They dressed in them sweatsuits, them goddamn Pumas and them Adidas. Did they or did they not?
What is Shan saying? I didn't get the point. Is he saying that they?
He's saying that we can't debate Joe on the 50-50 conversation, like that. He's saying that like Joe has a point with that, with the 50-50.
Well, like I said, I was there. Shan wasn't there. I was in the Bronx. I was at the school jams. You understand what I'm saying? I was there personally. I know what I saw and I know who I connected with, but I'm not trying to cause no debate between us. See, that's not really a big topic of discussion for me because we all contributed together.
Right.
But when we're talking about the creation of it, that's a whole nother conversation. Now, I wasn't there in the creation of hip hop, but I was there in the beginning of its evolving. And from what I saw from my experiences, like I said, it was more of a foundational Black American experience. It was more of a foundational Black American dress code, language, ebonics, culture, food, swag. It was a black self-expression moment and movement in my opinion, from what I experienced. But you had a few Latinos who were there, who were part of enjoying the activities, and participating in it. Very few. And as time went on, that changed. That changed quickly. But during my days, I saw the separation between Latino and Black in hip hop. And, even when I was a B-boy breakdancing and with my Latino brothers and sisters, they didn't like a lot of Blacks. It wasn't a lot of Blacks coming over there where we was. You understand what I'm saying? It wasn't a lot. I was surrounded by Latino brothers and sisters. I was not surrounded by integrated brothers and sisters, but both parties. No, it wasn't that. It was strictly Latino. And even there, I felt a little tension from some Latinos because I was what they call the Moreno. So, I saw the tension, but they were like, hey, man, if he's here, he's one of us. And I went through that a few times, my own personal thing, but I understood it, though. I understood it. I wasn't offended by it. I mean, I experienced it. I got through it, and it was just another notch under my belt of something I had to learn and experience.
Yeah, so let me ask you that. You're mixed and you grow up with both of the cultures, right?
Check that out.
And you see the tension between the two cultures. That must bother you inside because you love both sides.
Exactly.
Obviously, you know, and then you're witnessing that. And at the end of the day, of course, with all races, we have more in common than not in common.
Correct.
So it's just the divide is difficult to watch, right?
Correct. And to be honest with you, I felt more unity. I felt more brotherhood when I was with the Latino community more than I was with the foundational Black American communities. I mean, it was just a different feeling, with my own people. Here it is. We got the screw face. We want to fight. It's no unity. It's egos always, clashing, but with my Latino community and my family, I didn't experience a lot. I experienced more love and more collaboration and more sticking together and more unity and more, wanting for your brother what you want for yourself. And I loved it that. And that's why I believe, and I'm grateful that the creator introduced me to hip hop the way he did, not because had I picked up a mic before I started breakdancing, I might have never experienced my Latino brothers and sisters and the love and the relationships that I had with them or the knowledge that I gained from them. I probably would have been one-sided like everybody, like a lot of other people are.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing that you were able to experience that. What would you say is the reason why that you feel that there's more separation amongst the Black community versus unity?
Wow. Because the Black community,
I feel like for the Puerto Ricans, right? You said they were still fairly new in the Bronx, right? That community, but they're coming from essentially somewhere else from Puerto Rico, which, it's a part of the U.S., but like a lot of times it's not, it's not treated as much, right?
Correct.
So it's like maybe that's why they had that more like stick together mentality.
Well, I believe part of that reason why they had that mentality is because they come from culture. They come from culture. They have identity in culture. They know where they know where they stem from. They know their history. They know their legacy. So when you know who you are and you know where you came from, you have a sense of unity. When you meet someone who's coming from where you came from or have the same qualities as you unite with them. So I believe the foundational Black Americans don't have that. We don't have culture. We don't have a legacy. We don't know where we came from. We got broken language. We was enslaved. Yeah, I'm back, Panda. Okay.
No, but you were saying that because the culture was obviously robbed from Blacks, right? You don't know the exact country that you're from. Because people that are ignorant, they just think Africa is one country. But no, there's like so many countries, so intelligent people. You guys came from kings and queens and, just so much most intelligent things. and that was robbed, so
Yes,
because
sir.
you don't know where you came from, it's hard to know where you're going, or just a lot of different things, right? So that's what you were saying.
Correct. Yes, sir. It's unfortunate, like I said, foundational Black Americans don't know the greatness that's inside of them, and unfortunately, they've been oppressed and intentionally deprived of that information. But again, you got free will, so I'm a seventh grade dropout. I dropped out of school in the seventh grade, and I'm pretty much a self-educated man. I pretty much taught myself how to articulate my words, reading, and just dealing with life. So, if I can, reach this level, I'm be 60 years old this year.
Wow.
And again, I left school in the seventh grade. So what does that say?
So your message is what from what you're saying right now?
I mean, it's how you take it. I mean, school didn't educate me. And if you are educated, or if you want to find out something, you can seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. I mean, you can find this information out. You can find out your greatness in yourself. You could take time to research. You can discover things. You have access now to computers and social media and Google and Yahoo. And so it's like, when you take the time to discover the greatness in yourself, then I guess, that's when you start benefiting from it. But until then, if you want to be subliminally seduced and mind fucked, then, that's where you at. Cheapo.
What I'm gathering from what you're saying is we all have things that make it difficult for us in life, right? We all have our challenges, our roadblocks, but it's up to you at the end of the day to accept that and to rise above it. And the sooner that you accept it for what it is and make the effort to go above, then you'll be able to succeed. Is that what I'm getting from you?
You said it better than I did. Yo, Panda, you said that better than I did. That's it. That was well articulated.
I'm loving the gems that you dropping in this interview, though, man. I'm loving it.
Oh, man. I'm enjoying myself with you, brother. Thank you.
All right. So you had a pretty iconic song, right? About crack and the effects it had on your neighborhood.
Ooh.
Take us through the process of writing that song. Crack it up.
Wow. Well, that's when the 80s came around, and that's when the crack epidemic was outrageous. It was crazy. And, I was just, in my usual mode of walking through the house, thinking of something to write about, banging on the tables and trying to think of a hook and a topic. And I just did that a lot. And I was like, wow, that cracking up shit, that's something to talk about, man. But I wanted to do it where it was humor. I wanted it to be humorous, but serious at the same time. I know I had to make it funny and catchy. And I wasn't thinking about putting no limitations because I didn't know the game. I didn't know that, cursing and the topics that you choose is very sensitive. Politicians, voting, I didn't know those things. I was just an artist. So I just wrote crack it up, and I knew the hook had to be catchy. So I was like, crack it up, put it in the pipe, then smoke it. And then, I would describe in my lyrics, some of the ups and downs and trials and tribulations that crack had brought on to, specific individuals in our community. So, yeah, I did that. Aaron loved it. I brought the idea to Aaron. He loved it. And, man, we knew we had a hit. We knew that we was on to something completely that nobody's even thinking like this. Nobody's writing like this. No, this is going to blow. Aaron was very enthusiastic about that, and he did what he could to push that particular record. Unfortunately, there was some, blowback, from the industry and corporation. And I'm going to keep it real with you, man. till this very day. I believe, and I studied and done some research, and I feel that that song would have more than likely stopped people from smoking crack. You know, I had people that came up to me and said, Wiz, because of that crack song, I stopped smoking. You know, because of that, I heard that song and made me look at myself. And I think that if the song had the ability or the opportunity to generate like we intended it to do, it would have put a whole nother spin on hip hop. It would have gave hip hop a whole nother direction, and writers would have been writing differently, and we would have been on a whole nother perspective of, you know, uplifting the community and cleaning up the community and pointing out the things that bring the community down. At one point, I remember Ronald Reagan coming up with the slogan, just say no to crack, which was shortly after they banned me and kicked me off the radio and told Aaron, take the record down, and told Red Alert and Mr. Magic and Chuck Chill Out and all of them, don't play the record or else. And we went through a whole lot with that particular song, but I really think Ronald Reagan stole my idea and used it for his political agenda, because shortly after that they come up with just say no to crack. So I'm like, wow. And after that, my career pretty much was blackballed. You know, pretty much was, you know, we had to go overseas with our material, with my music and my work once that occurred.
Yeah,
so that crack it up.
Let's talk about that though, right? Because like the song got banned from the radio, essentially, right?
Right.
And
right.
That just angered me, because when you look at the lyrics of the actual verses that you're talking about, you would have to be dumb to not know that you're being sarcastic. You're basically showing people this is what's going to happen if you use this substance.
Correct.
So I don't get where the disconnect came from at all. Like people, it gives credence to what people say, that people just listen to the beat in the chorus and that's it. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's it. Because it makes no sense. If you actually fully listen to the song, then you will realize that you're speaking out against it.
Correct. So with that being said, I'm sure the powers that be interpreted it the same way that we did, but they flipped it into a whole nother thing, because I really feel that they was afraid of me. Afraid of the next projects that I would come out with, or the next topics I would bring to the table of discussion, the next awareness that I would bring to the people and make them, give them something to think about, or give them a whole nother way to look at something. I think that they foresaw the threat that I brought to the community with the advancement that I already had in my writing and my whole vocabulary. I think that they saw the threat that I posed, and they very quickly, you know, said, hey, this guy's way ahead of his time, man. We still messing with the Sugar Hill gang, man. We just before the Sugar Hill gang, but this is the level that hip hop was on. While I was on talking about Crack It Up, the world was on the Sugar Hill gang level of understanding. So they wanted to just control the momentum of hip hop. And when they was ready to bring certain things to the world, that's when they was going to do it, and not before.
You know, the third verse is the one that sticks out to me all the time because of what you're talking about. Like women, you know, end up getting on their knees to basically feed their addiction, right? And I think it's something that people don't talk about enough, where you have some of the most beautiful women that were affected by this substance. And what they had to do, or felt they had to do, to feed that addiction.
Yeah, that tore a new asshole in the Black community. You know, it just demoralized people. It just reduced people's humanity and common sense to a level of just not caring anymore. Just the lowest level that you could ever imagine someone going to. This is where it brought you at. This is how much of a victimized the community was. And yes, mothers would do anything. You know, I mean, brothers would do anything. So if I see the grown man do anything, I could. We already know where the sisters is going with that.
Right. So were you seeing the Latino community affected just as much as the black community by crack?
I wouldn't say that. I would say the black community was more affected by it. And the reason why I would say that, and the reason why I think that that's the reality, is because the black community had more suffering. You know, the black community had already stuck in its own ignorance. You know, they already didn't have no identity. They had an identity crisis. They didn't have no foundation where they could use that to unify themselves or empower themselves. They were always victims since they've been here. So they were most targeted, and they most were the ones who were more receptive to becoming, you know, addicted. But the Latino community, I believe, from my experience, already had their culture. They knew where they were from. They knew where their language was. They had their own culture. So, you know, and then they saw what it was doing to the black community. And like I said, you know, there was a little tension in those days between Latino and black. So that was making the Latino feel more empowered, just to see the black community being subjected to that and being victimized by it. They didn't want to become a part of that. They already still had their identity, their culture, their pride. They was like, yo, man, what the hell? And that, I believe, is what helped a lot of the Latino community not become victims as much as the black community.
Gotcha. So another record that you have is probably some of the craziest stuff anyone has ever said on a record, especially during that time.
What's that?
Okay, Bellevue Patient. Bellevue Patient. I mean, you're talking about eating boogers, roaches. And when you get to the third verse, my God, it's over. It's over on the third verse, okay? Because you talk about whipping out the salami on a cop and they try to handcuff it, and then you stuck it in his. You stuck it in his. I can't.
Recto. I'll say it for you. I'll say it for you.
Oh my God. What made you write that song, man?
Yo, I'm going to keep it a buck with you, Panda. I was really that wild and crazy guy as far as like, I never thought inside the box. And when I first picked up that microphone, even in my b-boy days, I would try to make moves outside the box. But once I started picking up that microphone and I knew that my lyrical ability and just the brain that I had, the mind that I had, you know, because this is all about mind. It ain't, you know, when I look at you, you look at me, it's really mind over mind or mind against mind. So, yeah, I was always one never to stay inside the box. And I was always confident and outspoken and loud. And I already knew that stardom was something that was in my DNA. So with all of those elements put together, you know, and the odds against me, being a solo MC and, you know, just want to create what I felt, those were the songs that I was inspired to write at those times. You know, it was really how I felt about things. It was some of those things I actually experienced. And, you know, I was on that wild and crazy Bellevue Patient, out of my mind type of energy at that time. So, yeah, that Bellevue shit was like, yo, man, that's one of my classics. That's like, yo, that's some real shit that went down on that Bellevue shit.
Yeah, because you was like,
let you know that right now.
You was eating like dog food. You like, man, you was doing some pretty wild stuff. But I saw in an interview you said that you had a lot of anger issues growing up, and you put that into your music, right? And you know, if a lot of people know that humor comes from a very dark place. You know what I mean? That's why you see the correlation between tragedy and comedy. Every comedy movie usually starts with a tragedy, right? A funeral, or, you know, like something like that happens, right? Or right? Or a tragic movie is a little funny in the beginning. It's like, it's very closely related. And
correct.
I feel like that was an outlet for you to do that.
Wow. You know what? When you told me in the beginning of this interview that you studied psychiatry or psychology, correct?
Yeah.
You did some study in that. And you already said this is the second thing that you said to me that I can pretty much sense your presence of studying and analyzing things because you hit the nail right on the head with that one, brother.
Mm-hmm.
You hit the nail right on the head with that statement you just made because yeah, it was like to escape some of the realities, hip hop again was an outlet for me. So I could deal with reality through my writing now. I could deal with reality through performing now. I could deal with reality through the character I was developing, the Bellevue Patient, Funkmaster Wiz, the wild and crazy guy. Those were pretty much ways I would ventilate, some of the things that I was dealing with in my real reality. And I used hip hop. Hip hop pretty much saved my life, man, because of that. If I didn't have that to ventilate through or to express my creativity through, I probably wouldn't be here doing this interview with you today.
Most definitely, man. I think hip hop has definitely saved many lives, I can say
Yeah.
including my own. So, but it's, a lot of times in life, I feel like we need that one thing to hold on to till we can get to a certain place in life where things can get better. And hip hop has become that one thing for a lot of us where you
Yes,
can
sir.
reach that point where you can grow and things can change for you, and I when I look at your story, that's what I see because like, you were going through so much turmoil, so many different things early on until your career and everything, right? But now you look at yourself in your life now, you got 11 kids, you're,
Yes,
very
sir.
intelligent the way that you speak and the way that you present yourself, which is different from this persona that people that may not know your work
Wow.
completely, right, would just cast you aside and be like, oh, well,
Yes,
that's
sir.
just Funkmaster Wiz, he's just the one that raps about crazy stuff, but when you really dial it down, you see the intellect and everything. So that's why I wanted to give you your flowers in that.
Wow. Thank you, brother. Yo, thank you for that, man. I salute you on that, Panda. Thank you for that, man. I really, I'm really gonna hold on to that, man. Thank you for that, brother.
I
Yes.
appreciate you, man. But I wanted to
Likewise.
say, do you think your style later on fathered people to make crazy, outlandish songs with humor? Because then you had artists like Eminem that came out and was, you know what I mean, like really making songs about stuff you would joke about with your friends, and
Yeah. Absolutely. I feel that I had a great impact on even people that came way before Eminem. I'm talking about Bismarck. I'm talking about NWA. I'm talking about Heavy D. I'm talking about people that way before Eminem had came along was now changing their flows up, becoming either more outspoken, more comedic, talking about things that was off the wall, now profanity started becoming popularized in hip hop. And, just people started breaking away from the norm of what they had been introduced to in the beginning of hip hop, with like the Cold Crush Brothers, for instance, they more known for rhymes and routines and taking other jingles and putting their own words to it, familiar jingles that we grew up with. They put their own words to it. They dancing and singing and harmonizing on stage, and that's what they brought to the game. But when funk came with articulacy, wild and craziness, outspokenness, profanity, the topics of discussion, the content that I laid down in my music, that opened up other people's creativity. And, they started exploring themselves. I mean, Caz is one of them. I mean, Caz was a guy that he was writing routines, he was with a group. I knew Caz way before the Cold Crush Brothers. We grew up on the same block together and stuff like that. So, I already knew how these guys was getting down, but yeah, even with some of the legends today, I influenced their creativity and expanded their minds just from them observing me.
So there was some issues between you and Aaron, right? The CEO of Tuff City Records. You spoke about an incident where you got into like an altercation of some sort and you got arrested.
Right.
with him. He, in his response in his interview, he said that you never beat him up and he never got arrested. What exactly happened in that situation? Because I know later on you guys ended up working together again, right?
Let me explain something to you. Tuff City Records is my family. It's the foundation of my career. And like in anything, even in relationships, you're going to have ups and downs, trials and tribulations, especially when you're doing it independently,
Right.
especially when you're new to the game, especially when you're on the job training, especially when you invest in your own money, especially when you're working with a team of inexperienced people, especially when you come in the game in the beginning of hip hop and you're new to the game, especially when you're dealing with a kid who's from the South Bronx who comes from nothing. And here's a man who you feel is the outlet for your dreams to come true. And and that's because of his complexion and his pigmentation and his authority and his wealth. But really, he's new in the game too. He don't know. He's getting into hip hop. He's investing in his own money. He's learning as he goes along. He's got licenses to fill out, paperwork to comply with. So there was a ups and downs and trials and tribulations. Like I said, not even in a relationship we go through these things. But Tuff City Records is my home. And the things that me and Aaron Fuchs went through is long water under the bridge as far as I'm concerned. And they helped us grow. Whether they were negative and positive, they were true experiences. And Aaron, more than anybody that I could say, gave me an opportunity that no one else really wanted to do. I mean, Aaron saw my greatness. Aaron Fuchs saw my greatness and he fought for me. He invested money in me. And, while the Cold Crush was performing in the Fever, Funkmaster Wiz already was in the UK. Funkmaster Wiz was already in China. Funkmaster Wiz was already in Billboard magazine. Funkmaster Wiz was the first hip hop artist to be on U68, which is UK television, which in America it was titled U68, which today is now MTV. So, all the struggling and the fighting and the sacrifices and the things that Aaron has done to for my legacy and his business and Tuff City Records overall, it all was a part of the agenda that needed to be played out. So we, as you can see, we still standing. Funkmaster Wiz is still here and Tuff City Records is still here. So that speaks in itself volumes.
Yeah, and I want to say, like, because he did say in his interviews that, like, you were a difficult artist to put up with, but you were so worth it, though. Like, he really commended you on that, right? And, you're right. He was someone that started as a journalist that came into the game and really did a lot of things that before other people did them. He was buying, publishing from older songs.
Yes, he did.
And so he was able to flip that where people would later on sample them and not know that. And he was doing lawsuits, a lot of different things that people weren't privy to,
Yes.
So I understand, like with any relationship, of course, there's going to be ups and downs, and
Correct.
But as you grow, you learn to understand why sometimes people make the decisions that they do, and it's not always personal. It's not always with malicious intent, And
Correct.
It's hard when you're young and you're coming up and you're like, well, my money's not right or something, and it's easy. Who do you point to, right? You point to this person, but you don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes.
Correct. One thing I didn't know was the business, and neither did Aaron. Neither one of us knew the business. We just knew we had an idea and we wanted to invest in our idea. And I had the creativity and he had the platform and the funds to manifest that. So yeah, we moved forward. But again, we didn't even know that what we were stepping into, because that Crack It Up song that brought a lot of attention and a lot of people who felt a certain way about the label now, me as an artist, and the future of, you know, the material that we was going to be putting out. So we even went back in the studio, and on that Crack It Up song, we put "You Better Not," just to try to, you know, make it more commercial. That still hadn't changed anything. They had made up their minds that this guy right here, we don't want him.
Right.
We don't want to hear what he got to say. We don't want to hear his music. Whatever they felt about me or thought about me, they had their minds made up.
So after your music career started to fade, I saw in an interview you were saying that...
No, my music career never faded. Let's get that straight. My music career transitioned. I left the United States, and I'm more popular overseas than I am in America.
You're right. But you know, overseas, a lot of times they appreciate hip hop a lot more than even the US does. I've heard a lot of artists talk about that, about like in Europe, like real hip hop fans, like on another level.
Yeah. It's a whole different mindset on the other side of the world than it is here in America. You see what I'm saying? So when you understand that, it's sad, but it's all politics. It's all politics. You dig what I'm saying? They have agendas, and, you know, if you're in the way of their agenda, then they have to move you out of the way. So if you got an agenda to promote crack and to flood the black community with crack and, you know, having people victimized by this substance, then you got an artist who's coming out with this mindset that can, you know, make people question their behavior or reflect on the things that they indulge in. They don't want, that's a threat to our agenda. So we got to do everything to make that brother take a seat. And I really truly believe that's some of the factors behind my story.
So at one point, right, you shifted away from the music and you ended up doing some time.
Right.
Right. I saw you talk about that in the interview. What led up to that point in your life where that transpired?
Well, reality was always there. Funds was always an issue. Getting ahead, paying bills, maintaining my lifestyle and things of that nature. You know, I had never seen any residuals coming in from the work I was doing with Tuff City. And, you know, I still had to maintain my livelihood. And by that time I had a child. I was, you know, living with my baby's mother. You know, I was a man now and I had responsibilities. And, you know, the dream wasn't being fulfilled quick enough for me as a young guy. I signed to Tuff City Records when I was 15 years old. So,
wow, I didn't realize that it was that you were that young.
Yes. I was 15 years old, 16 years old when I signed to the record label. And, but before that, I had signed to a Paxton Records. I was signed to a Paxton Records before Tuff City Records. And, that's when I used to have the group, the Undefeated Three, which I created with me, T. La Rock, and us created that group. But anyway, yeah, Tuff City Records, I was 15 when I got there, and that was a whole nother experience for me growing up as a youth right there. Yeah.
So how long did you end up going away for?
I did 2.5 to 5 for a robbery. I had committed a robbery. I had got caught, and you know, shit had caught up to me, and it was a reality that I had to face. That, hey man, you're gonna be going for the next couple of years. So, you know, I gave my mom's a call from the court, told her, hey mom, I'm going away. Excuse me. You know, I'm gonna be all right. Don't worry about me. Just take care of yourself. I'll be gone for a couple of years. And you know, that's pretty much how I began my bid. I just accepted it. I'm gonna be gone for the next 2.5 to 5. I got caught, found guilty. It is what it is. So I pretty much started preparing my mind to just, you know, be incarcerated for the next few years.
How many years did you end up doing out of that 2.5 to 5?
Well, I did the 2.5 to 5, and I was going to the parole board, and I had people writing all over from France, Europe, Germany, Africa. You know, people who was corresponding with me while I was doing my time of incarceration. They would correspond with me, and you know, they knew that my date was coming up, so they flooded the parole board. You know, they wrote letters, and Aaron wrote letters, and you know, I was an artist. I was established. I had Tuff City Records support and back. So I did my 2.5 to 5, and they let me come on.
And the reason why I wanted to bring this up was because I know that that experience for you changed you. It had to, right? What
Surely.
kind of experience was that like for you, like as far as growth wise? Like what did you use your time to do during that time?
You know, they asked me this question before, and the answer that I'm gonna give you may sound way out there to you, but for me, my time of incarceration was probably one of the most growing experiences and times of my life. I mean, I'm not gonna say I had a great time being incarcerated, but I will say that I had a great educational time of reading and studying and opening up my mind and meeting brothers and learning other things that I had never known. And that was the most time, probably the most fulfilling part of being educated was when I was incarcerated, because I've acquired so much on different aspects of life that, you know, I would have never had those experiences in the streets with freedom. I had to be locked down, shut down, sit down to grasp what I know today.
And see, this is exactly why I wanted to bring that up to you, because I know for a fact that you had to have found yourself when you were in that cell, right?
Correct.
Because your whole life was filled with so much trauma and things going on. And in New York, you're moving fast.
Yes.
You know, that's the lifestyle. It's
Correct.
like go, 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 right?
Yeah.
You didn't have any time to really sit down to figure out you and to deal with you. And
Correct.
you were always worrying about other things with your mom, your brother, you know, all these other responsibilities, these other things that you had to do. So I think that that's a beautiful message, that in a place where you didn't have physical freedom, you found freedom in your mind, mentally, and you were able to explore things in a way that you hadn't before.
Correct. Boy, I need you as an evaluist, because you do. It's like after I say it, you just simplify it and break it down in a whole nother simpler terminology, and it just makes it more clear to understand.
Yeah.
I commend you for that, though, Panda. That's a great trait to have, man. I salute you on that, man, because I can sense your sincerity and, you know, your analyzation of how you not just doing an interview, but you're trying to understand as well. And so I appreciate you for that, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I definitely always come from a genuine place. That's, to me, the interview is not just about, I mean, yeah, we're going to have it online and, you know, I mean, but it's more about being able to connect with people.
Right.
You know, like I always view everybody as from one human being to another, no matter our background. I feel like I could always learn something from somebody, and it means a lot to me to be able to connect with someone else on a deeper level. That's why I love having these conversations. So throughout your career, you've had some issues with some of the biggest rappers, right? Now let's break it down. Let's break it down, man, one by one, man, because you got at some people. What is the situation with Afrika Bambaataa?
Yo, before I go into that, let me just give you my perspective, because I want you to understand, you are interviewing someone who didn't get the piece of the pie, someone who was kicked under the rug, someone who was deprived of a lot of things in this hip hop culture.
Blackballed.
Exactly. So I'm not coming from Caz or Afrika or Melle Mel or Pow Wow or Kool Herc or I'm not coming from, my storyline is nothing like this. I'm the guy that was kicked under the rug. So I got nothing but, my whole storyline is nothing but grudges, little disappointment, frustration, you know, and just pointing the finger and naming names and keeping it a G and stating the facts. So for me, right, hip hop has always been a competitive sport. Let's clear the air with that. You understand? It's always been competitive, but a lot of people say I be doing too much. But I was under the impression that, hey, don't we all supposed to be doing too much when it comes to this? So when I started realizing that this thing was more of like a fraternity, you know, where a few guys had got together and created this narrative. And as long as they all stuck to the narrative, they all would be relevant in hip hop. So I seen that go on with a few cats, Caz, Melle Mel, Kool Herc, Afrika Bambaataa, and a few others, Curtis Blow and them. They came together collectively and collaborated on this narrative about hip hop and sold it to the public. And, you know, like I mentioned when Fat Joe had made that statement, I was there. And so, again, like people say, I be doing too much. I take this hip hop shit too seriously. And I do. And I want everybody to understand that. I take this shit very seriously. Because like I told you, Panda, that changed my life. So it gave me an outlet to ventilate, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't have to ventilate upside somebody's head now. I could just pick up a pen and paper and do some writing and grab a microphone and go on stage and I'll be good. But when I saw a lot of the things that I didn't know about hip hop, like I grew up in the South Bronx, so I heard Afrika Bambaataa's name a lot. You know, I heard Kool Herc's name a lot, Melle Mel and all of these brothers. And I knew what hip hop meant to me. So there was this guy, I forgot his name. He was on YouTube. And I meant to write this brother's name down because I knew I was going to discuss this with you, but I'm sorry, I forgot his name. But anyway, he was a blogger, and he was talking about how Afrika Bambaataa was a pedophile.
Hassan Campbell.
No, not her. No, this is before that brother Hassan Campbell and before that dude Ronald Savage. I had brought this up a year before Star had talked about it. I had a Blog Talk radio show on Blog Talk Radio, and I had heard these allegations about Afrika Bambaataa. So what I did was I invited DJ Mean Gene from the L Brothers, Grand Wizard Theodore's brother. I invited him to my Blog Talk radio show back in the day to inquire about these allegations. And he was boiling hot. I let him hear what the brother said about how Afrika Bambaataa has been a pedophile. He's been a homosexual. He used to mess with little boys. He's let hip hop be infiltrated by all nationalities. You know, I ran it down to him and let him hear the brother. And Mean Gene brother was irate. He was so upset. He said, Wiz, I gotta go. And he left my show right there. But what he did was he called me the next day with Afrika Bambaataa on the line. And I told Barnum, I said, listen, bro, I don't know you like that, but yo, I'm going to just ask you the truth, man. I just want to know if you did it or not. And he said, brother, I'm going to tell you, man, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. And I said, well, listen, I can't judge you, and I'm not here to judge you. All I know is you spoke to me one-on-one, and you told me you didn't do that. And that's all I could speak on. So as years went, you know, as a little bit more time went by, doing research and stuff on this stuff, I'm hearing a year later now, Ronald Savage comes out with this allegation, and then after that, Hassan Campbell comes out with these allegations, and then Bodyguard starts speaking up, and story of him leaving the country and has some little boy, and then he getting stabbed, and I'm starting to hear all this stuff, and I'm like, damn, man. That's some fucked up shit if that shit is fucking true. Because I just thought of the disappointment that, you know, our community and the embarrassment, the tarnishing of this guy's behavior. And knowing that it's true, I mean, I was like, wow, man. So I was fucked up with that. And I wrote a song about Bam for that shit. You know, I put him on blast. I called him out. I said what I felt. And, you know, it is what it is, man. You know, I had to put him on the chopping block, man. On the chopping block.
Did you have a relationship with him back in the days?
Now, we never had a relationship at all. Like, we met a few times. We greeted each other, pound up each other and shit like that. But we never had a one-on-one relationship. Not at all, no.
Wow. So, and I mean, as the time goes on and you're hearing more and more of these claims, it's really hard to kind of not believe that there might be some truth to it then.
Surely. I mean, you know, like we dealing with some funny guys, you know, when you put two and two together and you add it up, you know, it don't look too right. You know, I mean, you know, people, I mean, a grown man is not going to get up on national TV and expose himself. And if there isn't some truth to those allegations, I mean, that's a lot for a man to do. Most guys who probably experience that will have keep it in a secret their entire lives. But for someone in their younger days, while they're still young, to get up there on social media and give dates, times, and places and make allegations like that, you know, that's something you don't play with. So I already knew it was some truth. And then years later on, you got Melle Mel coming out saying it. You got what I think was another brother. I think it was Raheem who was making allegations. He had saw some funny shit and stuff. So I'm like, wow, you know, I mean, if y'all brothers would have mentioned this shit way back in the days, we wouldn't be here talking today. But it is what it is, man. These guys got relationships and friendships with each other for long terms. So they don't want to burn their bridges. They don't want to put their man on blast, even though they may know some facts behind that shit. But as far as burning their bridge, because they got these long-term friendships and, you know, everything has been facilitized between them and the narration has been created, you know, it's hard for people to get up and speak the truth. You know what I'm saying? So that's what a lot of these hip-hop clowns is on, man. They don't want to speak the truth. They'd rather just live in a fantasy, live in the past, and hope for the better.
So a couple things I want to add on to that, because when I interviewed K Born, right, he did say that, you know, a lot of people in prison end up that happens to them, right? They end up getting raped or something like that. And a lot of people will not, if not all, will not admit to such a thing. So to have a man especially come on and say that something like that happened to him is a really big deal. But on the other side of it, you got to understand that we are in an era now where people want attention for anything. So it is possible that somebody could lie on that, no matter the ramifications, no matter what, you know, before people wouldn't do. Right. So it's a tricky situation, but I totally understand where you're coming from with it. And as far as the whole protection part, some people would argue that entertainment business, Hollywood, a lot of people are on that.
Yes.
A lot of people are doing those type of activities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the new thing today. But my thing is this, Panda. If I've been accused of some horrific activity, some extracurricular activity that's horrific and immoral, the first thing that I'm going to do, and I'm sure anybody with a clear mind who's innocent, is going to clear their name.
That's a fact.
You're going to definitely get up in front of the podium, in front of hip hop, in front of the Bronx, in front of whoever, grab the mic, and you're going to continue to declare your innocence. If you're innocent, I'm not going to fade out, run away, hide, ignore the facts, not address my people who's looking at me crooked. I'm not going to do that if I'm innocent.
Yeah, but didn't they say that like Bam has like some memory issues or something, some health things going on now, so he don't care? Or
didn't they say that we've been to the moon before?
Okay, all right, I got you. What did you think about KRS defending him?
At that time, I had a few words for KRS-One at that time because, you know, either you don't know or you do know. And like I said, these brothers built alliances with each other. So some secrets is being kept, and some people got long-term friendships. And for them to be connected with something like that is embarrassing and tarnishing for their reputation as well. So I would think that it would only be natural to deny anything like that. But like I said, if you're a man of intelligence, the first thing you would do is put aside your assumptions and you would go do the research, because everything is researchable. So all KRS-One had to do, if he's keeping it real and genuine, and if he ain't a part of that elite clique, then all he had to do was research these allegations. All he had to do was reflect from his time period when he lived in the house with Afrika Bambaataa, stuff like that. And then we got to be open-minded to say, how do we know that he wasn't involved in some of those extracurricular activities himself? How do you know he ain't on the down low himself? So these are all options and thoughts that we got to keep our minds open to.
Because didn't he come across as real dismissive about the claims? Because it was kind of like, well, he's done so much for hip hop. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was offended by that. Like I said, those were my Blog Talk Radio days, and I addressed KRS-One about that. I know exactly the clip that you're referring to. I used it on my Blog Talk, and he was very dismissive about these allegations, but consistent about expressing how much contribution that Afrika Bambaataa made to the culture. And I thought that was very suspicious because, you're wearing a title of the teacher and you have all this information about this, that, the white man, this, black culture, this, black power, that. And when one of your own comrades got the spotlight on him, it would be only healthy for you to research and clarify that to make sure it's true. But if you're just going to deny these allegations and just because of your friendship and relationship with the brother, accept it for what it is and defend it, well, then I got to look at you sideways now.
Because especially if that person is arguably using hip hop, which is a beautiful vehicle that has given life to so many people, as the way to go about doing the evil deeds, right? Basically.
Correct.
So you were talking about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's terrible. It's like it's like Bishop T.D. Jakes. I mean, here it is. You profess to be a man of God. You on the pulpit, but then we hearing allegations of you, involved in extracurricular activities and attending P. Diddy parties and associating and affiliating with a bad crowd, but yet you profess to be a man of God. So it is what it is,
So you were talking about Grandmaster Caz, right? And you grew up with Caz across the street from him. I've seen in interviews you said that you guys have always been real competitive with each other.
No, it's never been no competition between me and Caz. No. No, it's never for real. And he knows that.
Okay, what about rivalry?
Yeah, I would say more like a jealousy. It's more like a jealousy and an intimidation and a reality that hasn't been accepted. Like, Caz has always been one for the spotlight. He's very egotistical, wants to, he's ghetto fabulous. This hip hop thing for him is all he got. And, he lives for this as far as like the fame and being recognized. But as far as like the talent and putting in the hard work and the lyrical ability, he's limited in those areas. I used to write for Caz. Okay.
No, don't say that. Wait. What years are we talking about?
Yo,
you're gonna ruin a lot of hip hop. You're gonna ruin a lot of hip hop stuff right now.
I know it is, but the truth got to be told. You see, because what you do in the dark will come to the light. And one thing, I learned about hip hop is that when we was doing hip hop, there was codes that we honored. And even me sharing this with you right now that I've written for him is like, I feel like kind of like breaking a little bit of the code, because the agreements that we had and the things that I've done behind closed door for Grandmaster Caz's career is something that, was between him and I. And I'm not going to go into all of that, but, like I said, I'm saving some of that for my book. But there is...
Wait. Can you just tell us this, though?
Yeah.
Was this like when he was already on? Or was he talking about like you guys are kids and like you writing for him?
No, this is throughout his career. We're not just talking about no particular time. There was times Caz came to me and asked me for writings. You know what I'm saying? There was times he had a deal on the table and couldn't get no ideas. And he would call me and say, Wiz, can you help me? I would write the whole song. And he would get, matter of fact, there was a project we did. I will share this with you right here. And you could research this up yourself. We did a project. There was a project in the UK. Okay, I'm gonna give you a small example. And they didn't like none of the shit that he was producing or bringing to the table, and he couldn't get the deal through. So he calls me and he asks me, Wiz, I got this going on, yada yada yada. Can you give me a hand? Yo, it's good. I'm like, in my mind, yo, no problem. It's what I've been doing. So I gave him a hand. I wrote the song. Me and my lady, she did some singing on it, and it's called what was the name of the song? Begin to Love. Begin to Love. And this brother took that song. Now I had wrote his parts and everything. This brother took the whole song, went to the UK, got the deal. They loved it. They loved it. So I'm like, where's the contract agreement? If they love the song, where's the payments and all this and all of that? He's come to find out, I had to call the company and tell them I wrote the song. They was flabbergasted. They're like, what? Yeah, that's my writing. Matter of fact, I'm going to send you the original to that. I had the original that me and my lady already done. So I sent them the original to show them, like, I wrote that. That's my shit. You can't even do nothing with it. You can't even put it out. That's when they said, yo, Wiz, man, we want you to do some things. So me and my lady ended up doing 2 more songs for them and getting the deal. And they never put out that song that I wrote for Caz because they was shocked. Instead, what they did was they wrote an article about it. You can go look this up. It's free for everybody to find out. They wrote an article about how like they were shocked that to come to find out that Caz accepted writings from Funkmaster Wizard Wiz. This was shocking to them. They were so shocked they had to put it in an article. So you can go research that if you get a minute to.
Wait. But doesn't Caz have this reputation as being hip hop's first ghostwriter or like writing for a bunch of people?
Caz got a reputation of being a liar. You see, this is what pissed me off when he came out with that book Written. Like, this is what I don't understand. How do you get the audacity to put out a book called Written when another artist has written for you? That's what I don't understand, because a lot of, like you just said, you look at him as this guy who's a ghostwriter for this person. He's done this for that person. He's the grandest of them all. Him and Melle Mel is the greatest. And he put out this book called Written. So if y'all are looking at him like he's the grandest, then what the hell am I?
Ooh. Dang. Wiz, you coming with that heat in this you breaking a lot of people's dreams, with what you saying, man.
Yo, let me say something with you, and this is for the people who's going to watch this interview. One thing people fail to get right is that a lot of people are looking at hip hop from a fan's perspective. So you on the other side of the fence. You enjoying the entertainment. You're being entertained, and that's all you want. So if someone's entertaining you, hey, you having a good time. But me, I'm not in this for entertainment, and I'm not in this to be entertained or to entertain you. You understand what I'm saying? Like they said, Wiz, you be doing too much, and you take this shit too seriously. And that's facts. So I'm not in this for entertainment. I'm not in this to play any games. I write all the time. I've been putting albums out. I've put an album out every year since 2017. 2017, 2018, 2019, this is what I do. I'm not still listening to Bellevue Patient. I'm not listening to Crack It Up. I'm not listening to Put That Head Out. I'm listening to all my new shit. The shit that I'm doing today. The shit that's relevant today. I'm not living on my past. This is how serious I take this shit. So when you got guys calling themselves the greatest and the grandest of them all, but still living on their past works, that pisses me off. You don't deserve that title. If you want to be the grandest, then what the hell am I?
So you never got paid for any of the work that you did with him?
See, you think you slick, Panda. I never told you that. I never said that. I never said that, Panda. Of course.
Well,
I mean, of course, you know, there was deals and transitions that took place throughout our friendship and brotherhood and hip hop camaraderie. But yeah, man, you know, it's just getting to the point where, you know, I feel like, you know, hip hop was being misguided, misinformed, half truths were being told. And, you know, then I'm hearing all these things coming out as far as like Afrika, Bambaataa. And then I do research and find out that Melle Mel didn't write the message, but he gets inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm hearing that Ed Fletcher, aka Duke Booty, was the writer. And I'm seeing these, you know, these guys be getting all these accolades, but they ain't true to the game. They ain't true to the game.
So your thing is kind of like they're all in it together, basically. They're all in cahoots, like with.
When I told you that they've come together and created this collective narrative that they all mastered and they all put together to keep themselves relevant in the game. So they're going to make Grandmaster Flash, Afrika, Bambaataa, and Kool Herc the pyramids of hip hop. And as the founding fathers of hip hop and this and that, when there was DJs who were there way before these guys were even there. You dig what I'm saying? These guys used to get equipment from Disco King Mario and stuff like that. And these brothers just left out the equation. So when I see stuff like that, selfishness and people hogging the history and only telling half of the truth to keep themselves relevant, I feel obligated. I feel obligated to put a check on that shit. And I feel that that's my job, to put a check on hip hop.
So what did you and Caz like have an actual situation where you guys fell out, or was it just over time you started to realize it for what it was and then you decided to distance yourself?
It was a gradual period of over time, just learning him and watching how he moves and learning some of the things that he did, some of the things he did behind my back, you know, and just watching how he moved and, you know, the credit that he was claiming and the lack of work that he was producing. You know, I hear him talking a lot of talk, but I don't see no action behind those words. And so, you know, when I calculated the contributions that I've made to hip hop, Caz is nowhere near the status of contribution to hip hop than Funkmaster Wizard Wiz. And this is what people don't understand, because when you're looking at it from a fan's perspective, you don't know the business aspect of what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know anything about licensing. Yeah, the world doesn't know that Funkmaster Wizard Wiz was the first independent international artist. What does that mean? That means I already was in the other side of the world, promoting my music and introducing the world to hip hop. Way before Music Video Box was even created. Way before MTV. Way before Ralph McDaniels and everything. Funkmaster Wiz was the first hip hop artists on U68 television. They never played hip hop. This was rock and roll. This was black soul. Funkmaster Wizard Wiz was the first rapper to be allowed to come on U68, which is television in the UK, MTV in the UK, but it's U68 in America.
Wow.
And remember, I don't know if you probably wasn't around when we had to go to put the television on channel U and then go up to the top buttons and get all those numbers, 68, 69, 70, 71. We had to go, that's where the cable was. It was on, you put your regular TV on U, then you go up to the other button, you put it on 68, and it was very fuzzy and everything, but it was video music's being played there, but no rap was there until Funkmaster Wizard Wiz was introduced to U68. That's when hip hop was introduced to the world because it was introduced in the UK. While they over here in the fever, while they over here in the park, Tuff City Records, we already was being internationally distributed because of the ban that they had put on me and the restrictions they had already put on me. We found other ways to profit. We said, hey, if you don't want to fuck with us in America, then they'll fuck with us in Europe. And so that's when licensing and distribution and all the things that hip hop doesn't know about. They know about you getting on stage and rhyming with a microphone, but what about independent licensing? What about international shit? What about, hold up, who was kicking out those doors? Who was doing business deals? So
you were talking about looking at things from the fan perspective, right? Okay, so I want to bring this up because we already know what's going to come, okay? People in the comments, they're going to start trolling. Who the hell is this guy anyways? He just jealous of Caz. Right. He just hating on him. Like, how dare he? He said they got a friendship, and then next thing you know, now he putting him on blast. What kind of friend is you? What do you have to say to those people?
Well, first of all, right, one thing that I practice is to be loyal and true. And that's to myself first, because I bear witness is something greater than myself. And I know that I'm going to be held accountable for whatever I say out of my mouth. And I know that action speaks louder than words. So I showed and proved what I'm saying because I called Grandmaster Caz out. And I'm still waiting for a response. And this was back in 2017. I've done everything to get this brother's attention on a hip hop note. I've never cracked nobody in the head with a baseball bat. I didn't let the gorilla out the cage or nothing like that. I kept the pen to the paper.
Right.
Okay? I kept it hip hop. I didn't make no threats. I didn't pick up no weapons, no guns. I didn't leave Atlanta, come to New York, to Katona Park to shoot up nothing. I ain't do nothing. I kept the pen to the paper. I called them all kind of frauds, copycats, cowards, and all kind of shit. I stepped on his face in my videos. I did everything to get this man's attention, to belittle him, to make him pick up that freaking microphone. People wanted to sponsor this battle. People offered him money to accept the challenge. And yo, for the last few years, mums has been the word. Grandmaster Caz will not respond. He will not answer. I guarantee you, if you tell him, Caz, I want to do an interview with you, I guarantee you he's going to say, I'll do an interview with you as long as you don't ask me no questions about Funkmaster Wiz. That's how that's going to be.
Wow.
That's how that's going to be.
What about Melle Mel?
Again, when I found out that Melle Mel did not write the message, I introduced that information to hip hop on my Blog Talk Radio platform. Nobody knew that.
How did you find that out?
No. Research, extensive research. I'm going to tell you like this, because some things have been removed off the social media platform, but I had recalled researching some information that said, I remember Melle Mel saying he didn't even like the message. He didn't even like that record. And the day that Sylvia Robinson brought it to the Fever, he ran in the corner and hid. Because at that time, Planet Rock was the shit. So Sylvia Robinson, peace be upon her, came in to play this record, The Message. Melle Mel was so angry because I would imagine he didn't write the shit. He didn't write that. Ed Fletcher wrote that shit. And Melle Mel's verse that he put on it was a verse that he used on another record before he signed to Sugar Hill Gang. I forgot what label he was on before he signed to Sugar Hill Gang. I don't know if it was Enjoy or whatever, but he used that same verse that he used on that first company on The Message. And so anyway, like I read, he didn't like the record. He was embarrassed. He thought it was going to be a flop when she brought it to the Fever. She played it right after Planet Rock. And yo, they loved it. That's when he came out of the corner like, oh shit, they loving this shit. And he realized then that, yo, that shit was going to be a smash. He didn't even like the message. So when I started researching all of these things and finding out this brother's been inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Ed Fletcher did a couple of things, for Sugar Hill Gang that we don't even know. You as the fan wouldn't even know this behind the scenes shit that's going on. So when I found these things out, I felt obligated to expose him.
What did you think about his battle with Eminem and his diss song?
I thought Melle Mel made a fool of himself. I knew that was going to happen. It's like, come on, man. Like again, this behind the scenes shit. When I heard people saying Melle Mel's going to kill Eminem, I immediately just put that out of my mind because I knew that that's somebody that don't know what the fuck they talking about. So I didn't feed into anybody that supported Melle Mel. I'm like, that person don't know. That person don't know. This person don't know. I just thought it was just a joke. I mean, if that's the case, battle me. I was coming after your man Caz. I was calling him all kind of cows. I even did a song on Melle Mel. I did a song on Melle Mel called The Greatest. You can go look it up on YouTube. Because I get tired of him saying he's the greatest. So I put a song out on Melle Mel. I put a song out on Afrika, Bambaataa, Pow Wow, Curtis Blow, Kane, KRS-One, Kool Moe Dee. All of them got tracks by Funk. Brucey B, Fat Joe, all of them got songs from Funkmaster Wizard Wiz. That's what I do.
Sheesh. What do you think about? Do you think that it was wrong for Eminem to diss him back? To diss, because it all started with interviews of him saying stuff about Eminem, and Eminem has only shown him love and respect throughout the years, shouted him out during the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speech and everything. But at some point, I guess if someone keeps on coming at you, it's hard. But I understand from the public perception, people were looking at Mel as a forefather in hip hop. That a lot of people still look at Eminem as a guest because he's white, and they're saying anything that he does is going to be magnified, and it's going to be like, oh, see what he doing now? He dissing a forefather in hip hop.
Well, again, you got to take the bitter with the sweet. You got some people that's on this side of the fence, some people that's on that side of the fence. But Melle Mel needed that lyrical ass with him. You know what I'm saying? Because he crossed the line. He stepped out of his place. He wasn't even in Eminem's lane. And, again, you're going to find people who want to stay true to that bullshit. Then you're going to find people who want to stand up for what's right. And so, I felt like Eminem, did what he had to do. This is a game. This is a competitive sport. This is sport. This hip hop shit is a sport. And if you invite me to the dinner table or if you invite me to the competitive line, then it's my obligation to accommodate you by any means necessary. And so he did. It was a fair battle. It wasn't the Furious Five against Eminem. It wasn't Eminem Squad against Melle Mel. It was Melle Mel and Eminem. He laid a verse. He laid a verse. People picked and choose who they felt was best.
I think a lot of people were disappointed. They expected Mel to come a lot better than that he did. Yeah, and a lot of people were disappointed by that.
You know what that told me, Brother Panda? And I'm a lyricist. I'm a writer, and I don't play with this shit. But when I heard that verse, that told me that Melle Mel don't write his shit. That told me I see why he didn't write the message. Because if you wrote the message, your mindset will be on a level where you can continue to produce that type of thinking music, that type of lyrical ability, but you drop down. That's nowhere near compared to the lyrical writing of the message, and which is only one song. Again, people keep on giving people titles of greatness for one body of work or two pieces of work. No, I don't call that greatness. I call consistency greatness. When you consistent, when you have a large body of work that nobody can deny, that's yours, that's shown and proved that you have did that, that's to be commended. That's greatness. But when you got one song or two songs and you want me or you want to be honored as the greatest or greatness, I can't accommodate that. I don't call that great. I just don't.
So hip hop has just grown to be something so big. I think bigger than anything anyone could possibly imagine, right? I mean, it's transcended so many countries, you know, races, everything. With that, people have introduced the conversation of if you're not black in hip hop, you're a guest. Like, you know, our buddy, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now. Lord Jamar, sorry. I know they're gonna kill me in the comments. Lord Jamar, he said that, right? And what do you think about that argument? Do you think that that's true?
First of all, I had to put a check in on Lord Jamal because when he was dealing with Vlad, I remember he was doing an interview and he brought up my song Crack It Up. And he made a statement that this guy was probably some guy on the block who, you know, put his own record out there and was trying to, you know, get a buzz for himself. And, you know, he said all of these things. And I'm like, damn, man. If you gonna get on national TV on Vlad and say this about this brother, when all you could have done was research this shit before you opened your mouth and find out that Funkmaster Wiz is signed to Tuff City. He's a real person. He's not some guy from the corner putting out his own material. If you would have took a moment just to research this information, you would have had a better case. You would have gave a better presentation. But he gave all of this bullshit information. So what I did was I sent a picture to him of me, him, and Sadat X. Because I wanted him to know, brother, you don't really know hip hop. You don't even need to be on that platform discussing these type of issues because me and you know each other. I've met you. I've flicked it up with you. You don't even know you shaking hands with this man that you're talking about. So I sent him the photograph to remind him and show him, hey, remember this day? And he's never responded since then.
He saw it.
But anyway, we had to get.
He saw it.
Of course, I sent the picture to him through email. I sent the picture to him, to his page. So, of course, he saw it.
Oh, I didn't know if
it was right to him.
I didn't know if it was through DM or whatever, if he saw it, you know, it shows seen if he saw it or not.
No, he saw it because he didn't comment after that. He didn't comment anymore. I made sure he saw the picture. Oh, he saw it all right. And that's why he shut the fuck up after that. Real quick. Because you never know who's watching. Another thing about me, I watch these guys grow up. See, they're forgetting I was kicked under the rug. See, while I was under that rug, I was watching y'all guys' careers blossom. I know everything about you, but you know nothing about Funkmaster Wizard Wiz, except what you're learning today. But Funkmaster Wiz watched all of you careers blossom. And I've been in the cut for a very long time watching these things happen. And it's just time now to speak on it.
So back to the original question, what do you think about that? Is his guess argument?
which was the Latino or the guest in hip hop. I feel, for me, I'm gonna just tell you how I feel about it. I feel that hip hop is a universal thing. So therefore, I don't find no logic in separating and giving people titles as guests and this and that and this and that. I'm not for that. I feel like it's a universal thing, and everybody has a right to express themselves through hip hop, regardless of your nationality or your culture. And we shouldn't divide up the culture by giving people titles as guests and all those type of things. All that does is just cause dissension amongst the ranks. You know, we ain't gonna never unify if we keep on thinking like that. And that wasn't the intention of hip hop, to separate, but it was to unify people and, you know, give people a platform where they can have freedom of speech and self-expression. But it wasn't to separate the people.
Do you think that that type of argument has been made because historically Black people have experienced so many times where, you know, the powers that be or white people have come in and have taken from them, and so hip hop being something that they helped create, you know, it feels like when a white rapper is coming in or a rapper of another, you know, ethnicity is coming in, it feels like you guys are trying to take something from us again.
Well, that's been the history of the Black man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's been our history. You know, we've always created and someone else has always stolen what we've created and things like that. I mean, this is something that the Black community should have, you know, gotten put in check a long time ago. You know, I mean, this ain't just start with hip hop.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's a situation for the foundational Black Americans to become aware of what's been done to them, what's being done to them, and for them to unify themselves and educate themselves and put themselves in a position to start fighting for change by any means necessary. And I'm not talking about revolutionary. I mean, there's revolutionary, but I'm not talking about physical confrontation. I'm talking about intellectual confrontation, because you have to beat the system. And you know you can't physically beat the system because you don't have any militaries, you don't have any armies and things of that nature. So you do have a mind, though. You do have a brain. You do have access to technology and social media. You do have a computer. You do have, you know, a team. So, you know, if people wanted to make change, they got to understand that the change is going to come from within themselves. If you're waiting around for someone to make change for you, then you're going to be waiting forever.
Right.
So until Black folk start waking up and making change for themselves, you can't get mad. You can't get mad. You like the saying goes, nobody can ride your back unless you're bending over.
You know, the way that I view the way I view things in hip hop is you should always pay homage to those that came before you, that paved the way to make it possible for hip hop to be here today. Right.
Right.
The people that laid the groundwork didn't get paid the way that these artists are getting paid now. You know, they did it out of labor of love. A lot of times they weren't able to benefit and monetize the way that artists are able to these days. So I think that it's important when you come into the game to show love to those that came before you. And I think that when you come into hip hop from another race, you are oftentimes automatically considered a culture vulture. Now, I don't agree with that, because I think that there are plenty instances with people like MC Serch, Eminem, you know, other races that have contributed to hip hop and shown lots of love to people and continue to do so.
Mm.
And I do think that there are people that are Black that are in hip hop that don't care about people that came before them, that don't show love, that don't try to help anybody else.
Mm-hmm. We the worst ones. We the worst ones for that. We the biggest ones who's guilty of that right there. We don't, again, it goes back to when we was having a conversation about the culture. You know, if you don't have no identity, if you don't have a land base, if you don't have a legacy, if you can't trace your roots, you don't have the dignity. You don't have the intelligence. You don't have the stamina, or you ain't going to take a stance on what's right because you don't have the elements that make you feel confident in the knowing of who you are. So like the saying goes, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So I think that, you know, the lack of culture and identity and land and language and all the things that have been experienced by black folk, I think it contributes to that ignorance and that selfishness and self-hatred to the point where, you know, you hate things, you hate yourself so much that you hate everything that looks like you. And we don't even know we're doing that. But all of that hate and that, you know, not giving props to those who came before you is really a form of self-hatred.
Mm. It's unfortunate, man. It really is, because I think that it's so important for us to give back to something that has been so fruitful for so many people, for so many lives, that changed the world, you know, that's the reason why you're here today, that I'm still here today, you know, that saved our lives, right? So it doesn't cost us anything for us to be like, yo, I really mess with so-and-so stuff. And, you know, I'm so glad that they were able to do their thing and pave the way for me to be here, you know?
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. Selfishness and not able to identify with the greatness in your own culture, because you don't look at your people as your culture. Everybody's divided and separated. We don't have what the Latinos have, that culture we love, that language, that food, that history, you know, that identity, that knowing where you're from gives you power and strength, and that keeps you unified. Black folk never had that. So they continue like.
But would you say that black folks have built that in America now? Because you can argue that hip hop culture is the strongest, most powerful culture in the world.
I disagree with you on that, because when it's controlled and when it's been weaponized against you, how much power do you have when your own innovation has been weaponized against you? Hip hop ain't doing nothing for black folk or the people that created it. It ain't building no schools. It ain't building no amusement parks. It ain't building no playgrounds for the children. It ain't teaching the future children anything. We still debating on whether Latinos are 50% in the creation of hip hop. I mean, we've got misindication. I'm sorry. We've been getting misinformation and have truth and staying in debate. And we still don't have clarity on the creation of hip hop still today. Still today, nobody knows the truth of the origin of hip hop, because it's been coming out of everybody's mouth and everybody has a different interpretation of it from their experience. And a lot of hip hop is he say, she say as well.
Right. What do you think about what Dr. Umar Johnson said about hip hop?
What did he say?
He said that nobody that isn't black can be the GOAT of anything that came from black people. So he was talking about Eminem can't be considered a GOAT because hip hop came from black people.
Let me put it to you like this. Some people think a certain way, and everybody doesn't think alike. And if that's his opinion and what his feelings are on that topic, that's his opinion and what he feels about that. And I'm sure he has evidence to substantiate what he's saying. But as far as I'm concerned, it's like, I understand, because we have been cheated out of everything that we've created, innovated, sponsored. It's always been a losing end for us. We've always coming out on the shitty end of the deal. And, you know, that's unfortunate But to now put the brakes on and the locks and the chains on, I think it's a little bit too late for that because you still ain't in control of nothing. This is what people got to understand. We are not in control of hip hop. We are not in control of it. So we just playing the game now. Once corporate America took control of hip hop and took it out of your hands from off the block, you lost control of it. So
that's a fact.
You don't call any shots. You don't call no shots. That's why you got people like Fat Joe confident in that, making that statement, because even they see that you don't call no shots. Even they see you don't have no unification. Even they see you don't know. So it's a little bit kind of late to be waking up, but it's a good thing that we are waking up. But to catch up, that's a whole nother thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking about Joe, right? With you being from the Bronx and everything, what is your views on Fat Joe? Have you had personal experiences with him? Any interactions that were positive?
Yo, it's funny because you bringing up guys that I have personal situations with, or again, Fat Joe and I lived in the same building. I'm sure you've heard him mention 1000 Trinity Avenue in a few of his recordings. I lived on the 7th floor. Fat Joe and his family lived on the 3rd floor. Yes, we lived in the same building. We've had situations where I had to put him in check. You know, I remember one time, like I told you earlier, my brother was living the life of LGBTQ. And I recall one day, Fat Joe and the Terror Squad and them, they was in front of the building, you know, lamping outside, chilling. And my brother was
talking the Terror Squad street team, right? Not the group, not the rap group. Okay, got you.
We talking about whoever the Terror Squad is, that his group, his people, his mans, his homies, they was all in front of the building. His homies, his groupies. It wasn't no niggas putting up no flyers and promotion. This was his goon squad. Okay? So I lived in the front window. I lived on the 7th floor, and I'm seeing my brother coming inside the building. And I'm seeing that Joe and his squad is, you know, gesturing at my brother, you know, ooh, yo, you know, making all kind of, you know, insinuations. And, you know, my brother's, you know, he's gay. He's ignoring it. And he comes in the building, and I was offended by that because they didn't know that was my brother, number one. Fat Joe didn't know that was my family. So I felt compelled to go downstairs and put a check on that shit. So that's exactly what I did. I grabbed the motherfucking hammer and I walked out the building, and Joe was standing there by the chains, and I walked right to him. I said, yo, check this out, bro. Peace, what's good? Yo, I want to clear something up with you. I said, you saw that person that just walked in the building? He said, who that chump? I said, yo, that's my brother. And he was like, oh, shit. I said, that's my family, bro. And I was watching y'all from the window, intimidating them, antagonizing them. So what I want you to do for me, Joe, is let your mans in them know that's my people's, man. Don't do that again. Don't let your peoples in them know that's my family. And don't do that again. So they was looking at me talking to Joe, and they didn't know what was going on. You know, they was just watching to see how, you know, reading our body language and shit. But Joe threw up his hands and was like, yo, you got it. You got it. You got it, OG. And I never saw them do that again to my brother when he came in the building. And so that was like the first encounter of, you know, me having to put a check on Joe, because when I first came from the penitentiary, he had that song, You Gotta Flow Joe, out. And I had just came home from Afrika. And
wait, before we go into that though, right? Okay. So when you went up to him, you had the gun in hand already?
Oh, no. They didn't know I was late. They didn't know I was holding. They didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
Nah, it wasn't like, and I didn't come out with the gun in this. No, 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 no. I
Okay.
just knew that I had to go down there holding. I wasn't going down there without anything. You dig what I'm saying? Because if it got funky, it just gonna get funky. But I knew that I had to put a check on that because, I saw how they treated, my brother when he's coming in, and I didn't want him to keep on going through that bullshit. And I knew who they was, so, but they didn't know he was my family. So maybe, I'm gonna put some clarity on this shit and see how that turned out. So that's what I did, man. I grabbed, I grabbed what I grabbed. I went down and I looked him in his face. I was like, yo, man, you saw that brother that just, and he caught it, he got it, and he was shocked that was my family. That's what fucked him up. And then I came to approach him like that. That threw him way the fuck off. But he accommodated my inquisitions. He threw his hands up like I said and said, no problem. And I never had a problem with that again.
So prior to that, did you guys have any like dialogue or prior like interactions with each other?
Well, Joe, like I said, when I first came home from Attica, and I was sitting outside on the car and shit. He was coming in the building. He had that. He was just putting out that song. You gotta flow, Joe. You gotta flow, Joe. He had that out, and I had just came home, so I had that mindset. But I was still nice, and he knew who I was. He knew I was Funkmaster Wizard Wiz. And so we got in the elevator together and shit. We was riding up. He had to go to the 3rd floor. I had to go to 7th. But in the meantime, I'm like, let me show this, because he was blowing up at that time. But I was like, it's nothing, man. I started banging on the elevator thing, the elevator thing while I'm spitting. And I'm thinking that that's going to make him spit. He didn't say nothing. Nigga got off the elevator like he was scared. Like, I ain't coming behind that shit. I'm like, I didn't understand that at first. I'm like, I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm in the elevator with you. I'm gonna get this nigga to spit. This nigga didn't say shit. This nigga didn't want to rhyme. This nigga wanted to get off the fucking elevator as quick as he could. And that's when I saw the funny shit. So I was like, all right, say less, man. This ain't gonna be one of those type of picnics. So, we never clicked up like that because, like I said, he had his clique. I was a solo dude. I was an OG. They was doing their things. So, it was never nothing past that right there. Until now.
The rumor is that King's son wrote Flojo.
Why did you mention that brother's name?
Wait. Before you get into him, okay? Before you get into that, okay? Because I know you got stories about everybody, okay? Before you get into that, in the comments. No, wait. In the comments, they're gonna be like, you mean to tell me Wiz went up to Joe and Joe just like let him press him like that and say all this stuff? They're gonna say that, right? Okay.
Yes.
So
let him say it. Because you don't know me. You understand? You don't know me. And I doubt if you know Fat Joe. I mean, besides what you see on social media, but have you ever met him? Have you ever sat down? Have you ever talked with him? Have you ever walked with him? If you ain't done none of those things, then you really can't have a comment about anything that you don't know nothing about. This shit really went down. This shit happened. Fat Joe will tell you if he's keeping it real. Yes, Funkmaster Wiz did come up to me one day when I was standing in front of 1,000 with my dudes. He did tell me that was his brother, gay guy that went in the building. He did tell me, yo, don't let him to check my boys and tell them, that's his family. He did do that. If he's keeping it real, he'll tell you that. Now, I'm on your show. So if I'm fronting, he's going to hear about it. He's going to say, yo, that nigga's lying. Or he's going to say, that motherfucker's too fucking real, man. I ain't even know the nigga was going to tell that story. Those are the two things he could say.
Because, people have known Joe to have this reputation or, from very early on that he was, with the TS team and they was really putting people in vans and they, he was nice with his knuckle game and everything. So the reputation is that like Joe wouldn't back down to somebody. So that's why I'm saying.
I'm going to say this to you. Sometimes all it is a reputation. Sometimes all it is a bunch of gossip. He say, she say talk. Sometimes it's I mean, because if you about that life, then you shouldn't even be walking around with no freedom. If you that much of what you perpetrated to the public that you about that life, how did you get away with all of that? Come on now. It's like if you rolling with 50 dudes, of course you tough. Of course you ain't backing down when you got 50, 60 dudes to get your back. You don't gotta fight. You don't gotta say shit. Your mans in them is gonna handle your business for you. But as far as Joe putting in work, I've never seen it. I've seen him talk like he put in work or sound like he's put in work or intimidate people like he's put in work. And maybe he has. I'm not saying he hasn't. But I'm just saying, a lot of this shit is like, a lot of us live on egos, man. And hype. Egos and hype is fucking sells. But nigga, where's the bodies at? Where's the bodies at? If you this motherfucking killer, I'm not saying you are or aren't. I'm just saying if I'm going to broadcast some shit, I'm going to show you receipts. I'm going to show you receipts what the funk say. I ain't seen no receipts. I seen you get ran out of New York. I seen you have to go live in Miami. I seen that. I seen your beef with Cuban Link. I heard about that shit with the cut and all that. I mean, I hear you most wanted in the Bronx. This is the word on the street. So all of this other stuff, or maybe it used to be that way, or maybe it's old news, or maybe it's the past, or maybe half of those guys that was putting in the work ain't even here no more. But as far as Fat Joe, that's all I know.
So how long did you live in the same building as him for?
Years. I'm talking about, I came home in 90. I'm talking about at least 7 years. 5.
So during that time, you never heard about him putting in work in the street or anything like that?
Like I said, it was all a reputation. I've never seen it. I've just seen a lot of guys, around him who will put in work. You see what I'm saying? I've seen a lot of guys around him that put some work in for him. But as far as him saying, step aside, I got this. That ain't what he's known for. That ain't what he's known for. And another thing, some people pick their fights. Some people know when to and when not to. I'm not saying I'm the hardest nigga in the world or the most gruelest motherfucker on the planet, but when I had my moment with Joe, when I had to check him about his goons antagonizing my brother when he's coming in the building, it was all good. He understood. He was a man of logic, and I didn't run down there with no gun out in his face, and I didn't have 25 niggas with me. I was by myself. But he still accommodated my wishes because I dressed him like a man. Now, if I would have came on some bullshit, some other dumb shit, it probably would have got stupid. But when you a man and you look at another man in his eyes, men recognize men. And he recognized that I wasn't a child and that I wasn't playing any games with this. And it didn't need to escalate. And I was good with that. Because I didn't want nothing to escalate because, I got to live here. My mom's lived there. His mom lived there. Shit like that. So, but I did have to get my respect and have to let them know that's my family right there. So now you know.
Right. So over the years, right, he's been pretty much the gatekeeper of Bronx hip hop. How do you feel about that?
And I feel that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and I was just going to say, and what he's contributed to hip hop throughout his career.
I'm going to keep it a G with you, Panda, because that's the only way I could be. I never was impressed by anything that Fat Joe did. I don't look at him as a lyrical artist. I mean, Pun was lyrical, but Joe is not lyrical, and he's not on my standards of recognition as a lyrical artist like that. I believe that he uses his Latino influence and uses the separation of Black and Latino as a power base for himself. I remember in his early days, he used to collaborate with a lot of Blacks at that time. Diamond D, Lord Finesse, Showbiz, Wu-Tang Clan, Ashanti. His career was built on collaborating with a lot of foundational Black American artists. You understand what I'm saying? But then when he established himself and he felt it was right, he created his own group called the Terror Squad. And that was basically a Latino-based organization. And I didn't see no Blacks running with that or invited to run with that, or I didn't see no integration going on with that at all.
Wait, what about Remy Ma? Remy Ma's considered Terror Squad. Wow, she's Black.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad. You know what, Panda? This is where I'm getting a red flag with you, because you name one person that is down with Terror Squad. You didn't name 25. You didn't name 30 people. You named one Black female chick. And you say, wait, he got one chick in there. Well, that's like Caz saying, y'all, it's the same thing.
Okay, well, he's worked with other people. I don't know if you've seen on my channel, but there was this artist that used to be with him that allegedly ghost wrote a lot of things for him, right? Named TA.
Yeah.
He been exposing Joe. He's been exposing Joe, so
I heard some of your interviews with TA. I did. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wow, man, that's some shit I didn't know. And all that did was give me confirmation that, yo, Wiz, you was right all the time. So I don't gotta be there to see it. It's just human nature. Sometimes you don't gotta be there to witness it. You just could tell the nature of a person and how they move. And, so that helps you able to analyze and read them and shit like that, and pretty much put their whole shit together before they start running the bullshit down to you.
Okay, but you were saying with Joe, he made the Terror Squad, right? That was primarily Latino. Now, can you fault him for wanting to put on his own people at the same time?
No. Because that's what, again, let's go back to my early days of b-boying. This is one of the things I love about the Latino community and my brothers and sisters. The unity, the collaboration, the working together, the love they have for their culture, for their language, for their music, for their food. I admire that. And I wish that Black folk was like that, but they weren't. So this is why I enjoyed my time with my Latino brothers, and I love them so much because of that quality that they have.
All right. Now let's go back. Wait, no, before we go back, actually. So have you ever had any interactions with like Big Pun or Cuban Link?
No.
Never. Okay. All right. Now let's go back to your man, King Son, okay? Because it seemed like you was about to go on to another level, and I was like, no, I'm not ready.
Not because you keep on naming.
I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that yet, okay? And King Son gonna call me once he see the interview. I know already he gonna call me like 10 times, and he gonna be all like, why you let Wiz up there and he gonna say this about me? No, I'm just playing.
All I'm gonna do is speak the truth, man. All I'm gonna do is speak the truth. And if King Son is keeping it real, he gonna be like, yeah, that is what happened. He's telling the truth. But yeah, my little thing with Son was, when I was getting that Grandmaster Caz, he didn't really know who I was. And I was getting that Caz. And I believe he came on my page. I believe he came on my Blog Talk Radio or something where he let me know his stance. Like, he's with Caz, and why am I getting at his man like that? And I was like, I was on fire then, because I was like, nigga, you could get it too. You could get it too. Because I wasn't taking no shorts. And so when I knew that, yo, man, this nigga right here, I'm going to have to come forth. So I said, listen, son, if you want to get in this, you could get in it too. When I came out to him like that, he never called me back again. He had my number. We spoke about 2 times. After that, we spoke twice, and I told him, I said, listen, man, this is between me and Caz. You understand? But if you want to get involved, you can get some of this too, King Son. It's never been a problem. And I made that crystal clear. And he never called me back again. That's facts. You can ask him. Yeah, I tried to get slick with Wiz. I tried to, tell him, yo, Caz is my man. And I thought that, being that, I'm King's son, that would do something to him, that would make him get off Caz back. But the nigga came at me, talking about, yo, I can get it too. Like, yo, what's up? And so I just stopped fucking. That's the truth. That's what you're going to hear. If he's keeping it real.
Wiz, when you start smiling, I already see the wheels turning that you're getting ready to go off. And I'm like, nah, man. Look, okay, but
you know why, Panda? Because these are people that you mentioning that I've had encounters with. Close up and personal encounters. This ain't like somebody we had a talk over social media. We never met and we never looked each other in the eyes. These were people who I actually had situations with that you bringing up. I'm talking about, oh man, from freaking Pow Wow to motherfucking Curtis Blow. I mean, Afrika, Bambaataa, Kool Herc. I got story. I didn't had to check all these niggas. Kool Herc and all of them. Kool Herc and all of them, brother. Is you gotta get my book. You gotta get the book, man. You gotta get the book.
But wait. Before we leave the King's Son topic, did you know him back in the day, though?
Yes, I knew who he was exactly, but he didn't know who I was. See, this is the thing. Don't forget, I'm the nigga who was kicked under the rug. So hip-hop never heard my name. They heard Caz's name. They heard of the Cold Crush. But Funkmaster Wiz was being persecuted by the industry and by the government. And he was under the rug. They wouldn't look. Wild Style, all the movies that came out, magazine articles that came out, and all of that. Funkmaster Wiz ain't in that. He said, I'm in Billboard. Okay, I'm in Billboard magazine back in the 80s, man, which they don't know nothing about. Before social media.
What was King's Son's reputation in the Bronx back in the days?
To be honest with you, like when I did my research on him, I already knew I saw him a few times, and I saw that he was one of those guys with a big ego. He was big, tall, intimidating to some cats. But I was familiar with that kind of, those characteristics. There's like 4 classes of people in my study. And you either in one of those 4 boxes, and I already knew what box to put him in. But yeah, he was always one of those dudes, I'm about that life, that kind of energy that he gave off. So, he definitely was confrontational. From what I know about him, he was very confrontational, but he wasn't lyrical. See, these guys ain't lyrical to my standards of lyricalism. So long as we keep it in hip hop, we good. You can't fuck around on that note. And as long as we don't take it outside of hip hop, we could, it's all good. So I never had to take it outside of hip hop with any of these brothers, to be honest with you, really. I just had to check them while in hip hop and introduce myself to them because, I was kicked under the rug. They didn't know who Funkmaster Wizard Wiz was. But Funkmaster Wizard Wiz knew who King Son was, who Just Ice was, who T. La Rock was, who Special K was, I knew who you all guys were, but you never knew who Funkmaster Wiz was. And that's kind of the advantage I got over these guys today.
Well, Wiz, man, I just want to thank you so much for your time today and sharing your story.
Yeah.
It was definitely really entertaining. It was a great conversation. I felt like we got to get on so many different levels, of like intellectually and just being able to explore so many things, man. I really enjoyed this one. I got to say, man. Is there anything else that you want to say to the fans before we go ahead and wrap it up?
Yeah, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to, come politic with you on your platform. I haven't done an interview since Uncut. You are the next one in line that I've, taken time to do these interviews with. I'm not much of an interviewer. I haven't done a lot of interviews, but
you've done a few, like I've seen on YouTube, right? Uncut was back like in 2009.
Right.
Or you did another one with them.
No, it's like I haven't done any. I've done about 3 interviews. That's nothing. Maybe 2 or 3. But this is probably the 3rd or 4th interview that I've done because I've never been an interview type of guy. You know, I haven't had too many interview offers. But I just want to thank you, you know, for taking the time out to, you know, want to interview me and inviting me to come on your platform. I just want to thank you for that because I feel like a lot of these clowns has been running and ducking. Like they don't want to get the funk on the platform. They don't want funk to talk about the grandest or the greatest or hip hop or other guys that they look up to just because they don't know my history. But hopefully that this interview will bring them a little bit closer to doing some more research and getting deeper into finding out some of the untold truths about hip hop and the culture. But yeah, man, I'm grateful to you, man, and I hope that I said some things that'll clear up some things about hip hop. And hey, man, Panda, I gotta give you salute, brother. That's all I can say to you, man. Peace to everybody, and thanks for the interview.
Thanks, Wiz, man. It was. We probably have to have you back, man, because like you got too many stories. You got endless stories, you know. and you know when they watch this one, there's gonna be a lot of dialogue. So then we're gonna have to have you come back on and talk about the response.
Yo, let's do that, man. I would love to do that. Cause you know this thing better than me, man. You know this is what you do. So you've said that to me several times. Like, Wiz, it's gonna be some feedback in them comments and stuff. So get ready. So yeah, man, if you want to have me back, man, I'll be available for you, bro.